All right, today is April 15th, Monday, April 15th, and this is our public hearing regarding proposed uses of the Community Development Block Grant. This is the second of, I believe, second of two that we're having, in which we invite public comment on the use of this grant. We do not have any registered speakers, but I'll go ahead and ask for roll. It's not on the agenda. Oh, I wrote that here. Are you looking at which one you looking at?
Okay. Ms. Brewer?
Here.
Ms. Cheney?
Here.
Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Ms. Primer?
Here.
Ms. Mail?
Here.
Ms. Snyder?
Here.
Okay, thank you. Any comment from council members or anyone?
Last week, at the public hearing, we had a couple comments around finishing the walking path, putting in a basketball court, things for the kids to do. Is there anything else? No? Sharon? Or?
I think we talked about, could we combine these funds with the proposal that we are supposed to be working on? So I don't know if there's any updates. Yeah.
You mean the
updates on that?
RFP?
Yeah. Are there any updates on the RFP for the Parks Master Plan?
My report.
Cool.
As we are advertised to do this through quarter after, I'm inclined to continue to hold the meeting until quarter after in case we have any late arrivals.
One idea that I was thinking about after sitting in on community engagement in Parks and Rec was if we could use the funds to clear out the old recreation space that has some old workout equipment in there.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if we can't sustain a basketball court, and we don't have the funds, could we utilize the basketball court that we actually have for the kids to play on?
I would agree that would be a goal of the administration to make that basketball court active going forward, but there's a lot of stuff in there yet from the fire department.
What is all that equipment? Who owns it? And is there any use that we could get out of that?
Or
Chief,
auction it?
you were here when that was installed, and I think you're familiar with how we obtained it.
Yeah, a lot of it was obtained through a grant by the fire department. Some of that equipment is personally owned by some members of our police department, and also some former firemen that still help with maintenance. So if anything was to be moved or looked at, we'd have to make sure that we're clear on what belongs to who.
Is that
donated a piece of it, that's why I'm really skinny and not in good shape.
Is it documented who's like is personally owned and who's?
I'm not sure, because it was, the bulk of the equipment was obtained through the fire department, which I can see. Mr. Phil probably got better idea of that than I do.
So in theory, we could give an opportunity for people who personally have items in there to take them and then auction off the rest and then clear out some of the old fire department equipment that's in there. If we wanted to, if like we could use the grants to fund the manpower, for lack of a better word, to remove that items.
So one of the issues we have to address is that opening that part of the building can't just be open for people to wander in. We would have to find some way of supervising it. If you recall, I don't know, I think you may have attended a meeting where we had proposed possibly doing a community engagement coordinator who would have been responsible for maintaining hours in the gym. I think that's a concern that the police department has on the security of the building at this point.
Yeah, because there's fire doors in between this part of the building and that part. And we can't lock them. We have to be able to have exit. Those are hand bars on those doors. So whoever's in there would have access to this part of the building.
I know that one version of a discussion that we've had was about, using that space once it's, if it's available and cleared out as just overflow. So if we have a yoga class and a something else class that has it's not just open hours, but it's a set, 6 to 7:30. And there's a point
Like
of
we use
contact
it
for.
as a
Yeah, so if that's booked for something, or we want to have more classes, we have that space available and it's just open floor space.
I think in some cases that room's even better for doing things like
Oh, agreed.
balance plans.
Yeah,
There's
So I-
been interest voiced in the community, in the Jewish community. People have approached me about, is it possible to rent out that space for their kids, like for their group, for their youth group, to play basketball and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And I said, not currently, but that's something that we're looking at.
yeah.
Being able to do that.
Yeah, I definitely think if we are able to pursue clearing out that space in the next 3 to 6 months, whatever equipment goes to auction, that would be a great thing to fund the rec commission. That would be my 2 cents. And even if we don't have a clear plan for it, I don't want to get to a point to where we have a plan for something and we are 6 months behind schedule on getting that space cleaned out.
Chief, do you know how many employees are actually using this space at this point? I only know of one.
I'm not certain, haven't paid much attention to it since I've been back. I know, in the past, our members did, we allow them to work out near the beginning or end of their shift. I'm not sure who does, I just haven't paid attention to it.
Would you be able to work with Captain Reed to see if we can get a survey on that?
We'll do that.
It would be helpful to know.
And to use that space for a workout gym for the community.
Yeah, that was one of my.
Actually
questions. We
not.
didn't-
The insurance company recommends that we don't do that because it's not commercial grade equipment and it would have to be attended for us to have residents in there doing their own work.
It applies to the outdoors gym. And when there was talk years ago about when we had the basketball court out there about opening it up or closing it, it's my recommendation that basically we do neither, keep it open, because as soon as we start supervising it, then we create liability. And this is different because it's indoors. And we'd have to have somebody supervise, but then we've got the liability for it too. And I agree with Ron, that equipment is, with any sort of equipment like that, you need some warning signs, you need some supervision, some training even for people that don't know what they're doing. I think that would create a real problem for us. Could.
Chief, do you know of any space that should the results of your census be that there's folks that are regularly using it, the stuff that, is there space someplace else that you know of where we could put some of that equipment where they could continue to use it other than here?
No.
Okay.
No. The basement's nasty. Nobody would work out in the dark next to a super loud generator. I don't think there's any.
Here in the summer.
What about the day room? I don't know.
Potentially, but we need that for office space, we need that for workspace. I'm not sure, I'll find out what equipment gets used and who uses it. In the past, I know some people who did work out there, because it smelled it. They come through the locker room, but, we'll find out, go from there.
So indoor basketball court against a outdoor basketball court equals liability on this, correct?
Why is the outdoor basketball court a liability?
No,
Outdoor is not, indoor is.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying, so
Yeah.
just to replace, we're not gonna build outdoor and build indoor, then we're gonna have to pay for liability and pay higher insurance and all the rest. I don't know if that is a smart deal, let's just have a goal to go on outside where it's open for the public constantly and have one inside that's.
I would agree.
Distance.
But I still think clearing it out so that we can have the yoga classes there, we could do more classes over there, that would be a smart idea. And if we can rent it out to like the synagogue or different schools that want to do a couple basketball things over there, that could pay for the increase in liability.
So what you're referring to was they wanted to use it as a gym to work out, and move the workout.
That
No, that's not what it, maybe someone did someone communicate that to you?
Someone asked
Because
me.
the people that were asking me were saying specifically basketball.
I'd be much more comfortable with the basketball court than that equipment people using it.
And it was in
There's
the,
liability for the village.
it was in the context of they'll sign a contract, so I'm thinking, can they waive? would that be
Oh,
part
you
of
can
it?
get all sorts of waivers, you can get, if they go in there, there's assumption of liability, but that doesn't apply to people virtually under the age of 18. We can get sued regardless. The idea is to minimize the risk and the exposure.
I definitely think that we can look at this project as in a couple of phases. Like phase one would be getting the space cleared out and figuring out what to do with that equipment. And then phase two would end up being just, we have an open floor for the time being. That is, that we have some strict parameters around while we figure out the rest of it. And then like phase three is in line with what we ultimately decide within the strategic plan based off of community feedback and everything else. And then, phase three could be in a year or two, but we have, but we're able to get some use out of it and start the cleanup process in the short term. I'd also say with that day room too, like that's also up for, if we're making the effort to clean spaces out, that day room could also be a source of revenue for us, potentially, for meeting spaces or things like that. At least get somebody to cover the utilities, that kind of thing.
Any other comments? We're at quarter after. We can go a little bit longer. Any more comments on it? Otherwise, is there a motion to close the hearing and move into the next discussion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. If you would, we'll stand for pledge of allegiance as you're able. We can start with the next meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Pridnoff, would you do roll call, please?
Ms. Brewer?
Here.
Ms. Cheney?
Here.
Mr. Fisher? Ms. Primer?
Here.
Ms. Nail?
Here.
Ms. Snyder?
Thank you, everyone. As far as setting the agenda, was made aware a couple hours ago, I guess, or maybe I just saw the email a couple hours ago, that our chief meter will be able to deliver the report tonight. Has he passed that along to anybody else? You got, okay, so,
I'll send it to you.
all right. Okay, I will read that when I get it, just in a minute. So, with that, any amendments or otherwise additions that need to be made to the agenda?
I submitted an email on Friday with agenda items that are not on here.
I apologize.
I had already posted the agenda. It was get your email from Rick Hall.
Still have agenda items.
Would you like to present what those agenda items are? and see
Yeah,
if
so the first
council
one
wants
is
to-
a request for village reports. The second item is ARPA funds. And the third item is a proposed revision to the rules of council. And I have copies for council of what I had submitted for their review.
Anybody have any questions about the proposed amendments to the agenda?
Do you want to add those under new business?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I couldn't have decided. It's all one packet, so take one pass it down.
So looking for a motion to add this under new business to the agenda? All right, we can go with that.
Motion to add Charlotte's additional emissary under new business.
Is there a second? There's no second, the motion.
There's a second.
There's a second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I think that's unanimous. Okay. I have no one listed as registered to speak to council this evening. Is that the case?
I'm sorry, I didn't get here in time to do a register. And I'd like to speak.
Is there any objection?
No.
As you know, we have a 3-minute time limit, and state your name and address for the council.
Leslie Hamilton Brewer, that is HAMILTON -Brewer, BRUEWER. Address is 6122 Mayflower Avenue, 45237.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to have the same-day registration cards, particularly since the agenda for today was posted after the deadline to register to speak in advance. So we would not have been able to register in advance for anything on the agenda. I am speaking on two things. First is that I am greatly in support of the policy so that we would be able to raise commemorative flags, for example, having the opportunity to have recognized Trans Day of Visibility would have sent a really strong message to a large portion of our community and to kids who are affected by a lack of visibility. So I hope that we are passing that policy that will allow us to be able to make common sense supports known without inviting in things like, white supremacists and what have you. The second thing is that I continue to be frustrated by some processes and policies. We've got emergency legislation on here that is not, as far as I can understand, an emergency. And so I feel like it being passed this way or it being put up to be passed this way just represents a pattern of people not being able to speak at the 3 meetings, which is why we're supposed to have public hearings. And for this one, it's, updating the online ordinances, which is something that is needed to be done for as long as I've been a resident here. And so it can't be that much of an emergency. Excuse me. And we have also left some things out of here. So for example, the updated wording in the HRC legislation on the website does not include that spouses are not welcome. So it doesn't include the actual version that was passed. But that's not in here. And so if we weren't passing this or trying to pass this through emergency legislation, there would be the opportunity for citizens to go through all of it. I'm asking the council and the administration to please stop trying to pass things through emergency and unless it is an emergency and follow set processes so that people have the ability to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else anyone like to comment on the guest speaker statements? I think I speak on behalf of council that the passing of emergency legislation that way has been a concern of everyone. My understanding is that the administration has been working in the direction of, with legal counsel towards making sure that we're able to not be so pressed at last minute to publish or to do our resolutions and ordinances in one reading.
If that's the case, can I ask why we're trying to pass the flag legislation or any of these really as an emergency?
Well,
This meeting?
can I address that? The resolution regarding the flag and the levy, neither of those have to be passed as an emergency because they're resolutions. They only require one
Right.
meeting. Okay.
But it says on here to declare it as an emergency.
Well, declaring it an emergency, it makes it effective immediately, even in practice, they're effective immediately, but technically they're not effective for 30 days unless they're made an emergency. So sometimes you make a resolution an emergency to make it effective in 30 days, whereas we won't be meeting for at least 30 days. So that's what we do. And that is our tax levy, and that's important because there are significant time frames that we need to meet. We have to get it down to there's 2 steps to this. I think there's 2 stages to this. This is the first one. This is the first piece of legislation that needs to pass. This legislation then goes to the auditor's office that then certifies the funds that this piece of legislation will generate to us. We then pass the second piece of legislation. Once that's done, we have to have it at the Board of Elections by, I'm trying to remember, I think it was August 7th. It's August 7th. So, and this is very important because of course this is significant money that the village can miss out on if we don't get this on the ballot.
I don't disagree it's important, but we've also been talking about this my entire time at council, so I don't understand why we didn't get this legislation earlier, so we could have had 3 readings of it during regular council, you know what I mean? Because I've known since the day I started that we needed to remove the 7 mil.
Well, no, I understand that, but again, it doesn't require 3 readings, just to be clear on that. The resolution does not, ordinances do, so it doesn't require 3 readings. You don't have to pass it this evening, it's certainly up to council if you wish to kick it over, but the concern again is, are we gonna miss the time frame to get it on the ballot? And it happens with villages and cities. So you're right. I mean, it could have been here in January. By the same token, there's a lot of legislation that goes through here. And I don't know this is an excuse or an explanation, but there are very few villages or cities that have this legislation for the levy passed much sooner than this. Usually it's around this time of the year, and then it goes again to the auditor's office.
That's fine. I think it's confusing when we add the declaring it as an emergency that's not actually an emergency, or we're suspending the rules.
I understand. No, I understand.
So
Well,
I prefer clarification on that, like with
Yeah.
the future.
You're absolutely right, and I'm absolutely right. It does get confusing when I'm declaring something, a resolution as an emergency when we know that it doesn't need 3 readings, but that's your explanation to make it effective immediately.
So the only one that requires 3 readings on this one that we are proposing that we skip would be the current replacement pages to the ordinance?
That's correct. And why do we do that? To make it effective. So, I mean, all these and I appreciate the speaker pointing out that there's some missing language, because this is not done by us. This is done by someone we hire. And if they have some language that's missing, could be a number of things. Could have been that legislation, and I don't know, was passed later in the year before they had the legislation to consolidate into our code of ordinances or not. I don't know. But obviously, if there's missing language from an ordinance you adopted, that's a problem.
So that seems reason enough to delay a vote on that.
I don't, it's historically been passed as an emergency. You're correct. I don't know that doing 1 reading now is a problem, and then doing another reading later is a problem. So that's fine. We certainly don't have to do it as an emergency.
Does anybody want to make a motion now? I mean, if it's not time for us to read this now, does anybody want to make a motion now that we move to doing multiple readings of it so that we can investigate that missing language?
I'll make a motion to do that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It looks
Objection?
like there's also just misspellings if you can spell check that. Unless you spell marijuana with an H, but I don't think you do.
Only if you're fancy people.
Is that the
Only if
fancy
you're
spelling?
French.
It's the fancy.
Where is that?
In the general offenses under the ordinance 2024-2, general offenses, you've got 513.121, marijuana drug paraphernalia. That's not a version of marijuana I've ever
Okay.
spelled.
I understand. Let me be clear on something. That was cut and paste from
No,
what
I
they
agree.
gave us.
I hear you. Just
So-
say, let's get it spelled correct.
No, I agree.
I think I've seen it spelled out.
I've seen it spelled out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
like-
way I have.
old time.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
old time marijuana.
I think they spelled it that way
In my
to
public
make
school
it.
education,
Yeah, yeah.
So, Mr. Butler, could you address where these changes come from specifically?
There's two places the changes come from. One is our ordinances that have passed over the course of the year, and the other is changes in state law. So if they change, state law gets changed, much of what we do is simply adopting the state law. Our own ordinances, I'm not sure what the percentages of all our ordinances, and I mean criminal ordinances and administrative ordinances, but probably it's a small amount of our ordinances that go into our ordinance book than state law. If state law gets changed, it's adopted into our code. We cannot, we cannot make a state penalty for example, driving under the influence. We cannot make that a lesser penalty than the state. So when they change it and make it go up or modify it, it just simply gets adopted into our ordinances.
Any questions on that process, how that works? Any other questions? I took it as unanimous without objection that when we get to the legal section, we will do a first reading, so final rather than an emergency reading there. Let's see, so our next, thank you again to the speaker for bringing that to our attention. Minutes to be approved from 3/18. Everyone had an opportunity to take a look at those, any amendments that need to be made to them. No? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept minutes.
Second?
One second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Objection, I'll take that as unanimous. So, we have the fire district report, which I apologize. I saw the part of the email from administration to me that that our fire chief would not be here this evening to give the report. I did not see that the report was attached to the email, so give me a moment. Recall the title of that email that you sent. Right. So run totals is the significant parts of this report. And what we have for that is there were 313 dispatches, 222 medic, 89, 35 from medic 289, and 51 from engine 89, 89 from the Quint, and 6 from District 89. They have these broken down in terms of which districts, like how many runs in each district. Anybody want information on that? These districts are Amberley Village, Blue Ash, Cincinnati, Columbia Township, Deer Park, Gulf Manor, Little Miami, Madeira, Indian Hill, Norwood, Reading, Silverton, St. Bernard, and Sycamore Township. The top ones were Columbia Township, Deer Park, Gulf Manor, and Silverton. Any questions on the runs? There's information on mutual aid that was given. Let's see, so we received mutual aid 5 times for fire. For fire, we gave it 12 times. For EMS, we received it 3 times and gave it 6 times. Fire losses in Silverton totaled $500, and there were no other fire losses listed.
Units of government are 87,000.
The total of the year.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I was working my way down. So let's see, we have total runs year to date. I believe that you have this information in front of you. If anyone would like me to read the other totals, I'm happy to do so. If not, I will go ahead and ask for the report to be accepted. We don't have to do that, I'm hearing. Anybody want to do it anyway? All right, I believe that's the end of the report. And thank you to our fire chief, Kenny Meter, for providing that information as detailed as he provided it. I know that it's very helpful for those that are curious of looking for the details on that. Let's see, so for my mayor's report, I got a couple items here. One, I want to acknowledge Transgender Disability Day, which is on March 31st. And as I have recognized that in the past, at least the past 3 years, want to convey why I believe that it's important is that we understand that acceptance of transgender youth from adults and peers is associated with or counted with significantly lower rates of suicide in this population. It's seeing other people that are like you, kind of a no-brainer, is very helpful when one is feeling isolated. And so we know statistically that this saves lives. So I'd like to really acknowledge that every year. There is a Transgender Advocacy Council of Greater Cincinnati, which is an umbrella organization supporting both individuals and support organizations. The website address is transgenderadvocacycouncil.org. They have an event calendar on their landing page, which speaks to events that they're involved with, and also information on how to get help if you're either wanting to refer someone or needing that assistance yourself. Second item I wanted to address was the passing of Bridget Kelly, who was a former Hamilton County auditor of ours. I ordered the flag to be put at half-staff following her death. One of her significant accomplishments was that she championed legislation that eliminated the Ohio sales tax on menstrual hygiene products, commonly known as the pink tax. She was passionate about the subject, saying women should not have to pay sales tax on medically necessary products. So given that she passed during Women's History Month, I felt it was that alone was significant enough to be having a flag lowered in her honor. Next, concerning the First Suburbs Consortium of Southwest Ohio, the next meeting is likely in May. It may be postponed. There's some, the plan is to have the Hamilton County Coroner come and speak, but we had to postpone our previous meeting, so it has not been confirmed yet. I was hoping to have that confirmed by today. Also want to acknowledge that we had one of our members, Jim O'Reilly, step down. He has late stage cancer. I wrote a letter on behalf of the executive board thanking him for his service to First Suburbs and to the greater community. He's been a wonderful asset. Those that know him are aware of the attention to detail and his commitment to service that he's had over the years, both as a professor and as a council member.
In Wyoming.
Concerning the minutes that was raised before, I got an answer on that. Our administrator, so a question was asked about getting access to the minutes of our First Suburbs Consortium of Southwest Ohio. They haven't been posted. I was not aware of this until it was brought to my attention. They have not been posted on their website for quite a while. I investigated that, and the administrator that we work with, Chris Snyder, said that he thought it was reasonable over the next 3 weeks to be getting those updated and onto the website. So we expect to see that. That's for the past 2 years. He said the previous years to that, he said where they had fallen off was during COVID. They have all those records, but he said he felt that it'd be too much to try to ask their office to try to get them all back up there for the past 2 years. So I want to give an update on that. There is an intergroup Seder tomorrow at Marison JCC at 11:30 a.m. It's $18 for adults and $8 for children. I've attended this in the past. I think this is the second year they've done it in person. I could be wrong. It may be the first year that they've done it in person. I believe it's the second. I started participating in this when it was online during COVID. It's a really great thing to be involved with if you're wanting to learn more about the different faith traditions that practice there. Again, that's at the Marison JCC at 11:30 a.m. $18 for that's tomorrow. $18 for adults and $8 for children. And I think that's it. Any questions? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, so I'm asked annually to do a proclamation on Education and Sharing Day at the yeshiva off of Section Road over there. It's a boys' school. And I go and talk about how honored I am that we have their school in our community, how honored I am, how grateful I am that for the young men that they are and for the men that they will become, bringing warmth to coldness in the world and light to darkness, which is the mission of the school. And it's always an honor to be asked to be a part of all that. So I'll ask for, what do I ask for? Affirmation of this after I read it. There is a name in here, which I do not study Hebrew. So I have a very hard time with this. I've been told that I'm welcome to come and get some tutoring on this, and I will do that between this time and the next time that I get this. Whereas excellence in education is vital to the success of our village, and in Gulf Manor, we seek to instill each child and adolescent with good education. Whereas by preparing our students for the responsibilities and opportunities of the future, education develops the intellect through lessons on literacy, math, and science. And whereas Rabbi Menachem Schneerson Melech Maholashuk dedicated his life to the betterment of mankind and tirelessly advocated for better education for all. And whereas Rebbe taught that education should not be limited to the acquisition of knowledge and preparation for a character, but also on character building based on the acceptance of the 7 Noahic laws that were given by God Almighty to Moses at Sinai. Whereas the United States Congress and Sharing Day USA as an annual national day to commemorate Rebbe's achievements and the lessons and the vision he set forth are relevant to us all today. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Densmore, in the Village of Gulf Manor, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Village Charter, laws of Ohio, and the United States, to affirm and proclaim Friday, April 19th, 2024, as Education and Sharing Day in Gulf Manor, and call upon educators, volunteers, citizens to reach out to young people and work to create better, brighter, and more hopeful future for all. Is there a vote to affirm? Or is there a motion to affirm?
Motion to affirm.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I think that is unanimous. Thank you. And that is the conclusion of my mayor's report. Mr. Hurd.
Thank you. If you have not been past there, at the corner of Weehee and Sanibel, the demolition on North Weehee is almost completely finished. It's amazing to have watched the transformation of what used to be the main building. There is some final grading that needs to be done, but all of the large chunks of rock and so forth are now gone. The largest piece that's left to do is removing the asphalt at the 2200 site, which used to be the bakery. But that eventually will be a nice even field. When that is done, they will hydroseed that with grass and we'll have big green space. This puts us in a position that we'll be able to apply for our grant funding reimbursement from Hamilton County. So this will be a good milestone to get through this project. On Hamel Avenue, construction continues. This past week, the water line was completed, and on Friday, they activated everybody's new water line. So you'll be seeing new fire hydrants and actually removal of the curb starting to take place within the next 7 to 10 days, and then replacement of the curb. So that project is moving along quickly. Just a note to council that we are headed into open enrollment period for our employees' healthcare plans. Our healthcare plans are provided through the Center for Local Government. It was a move that we made 2 or 3 years ago. We have seen significant cost savings. 2 years ago, we had a 0% increase in our healthcare. Last year, there was a predicted 17% increase, but because we are part of the cooperative with the Center for Local Government, we only saw a 7% increase in our healthcare costs. So we'll be getting more information on that in the next couple of weeks. That will come as a resolution, or as a contract to council, to contract with the insurance company. And then we'll also be, I would imagine that we will be reaffirming our healthcare savings account, which we've had for the last 5 years, I believe it is now. So that's coming. There was a request by the mayor for an update on the RFP status. The magistrate RFP is ready to release. There was a wrinkle last week in that we need to talk to the current magistrate before that can happen, and that was not able to have been done.
Our magistrate wasn't able to attend Mayor's Court, which is where I was going to meet with her to discuss, give her a heads up that this is occurring. And I will be reaching out to her, contact information that's provided to me, to do it over the phone rather than in person, rather, so we don't have to wait until next Mayor's Court.
Is it possible to speak up? With all the fans, it's a little hard to hear everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the update about the magistrate RFP. Could we,
Yes.
I mean, there could be more fans, yes.
It's not working.
I just hear a rattle of a fan.
Yeah.
Do we have an update on the RFP for the solicitor or the
Yeah, I haven't
RFP for
completed
the
my
master?
report yet, if I may. So the solicitor RFP is in process. After speaking with the mayor last week, we decided that we needed to include job descriptions for the magistrate and the solicitor. The solicitor job description was completed today and forwarded to the mayor, and the magistrate or job description is ready for review also. As far as the park planner RFP, that is currently in process of being drafted, and I should have something to pass on to the mayor by the end of the week.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Hurd?
Do we have an update of when the magistrate and the solicitor and the park plan RFPs will be posted?
I can speak to the magistrate one, which is there's a soft launch of it already. It's not going to be like a public launch until I actually speak to the magistrate, the current magistrate. I'll let the administration speak to the attorney RFP. I just received that today. At what time did you send that?
2 or 3, whatever it was.
Yeah. So I haven't had an opportunity to look at that. I anticipate being able to give some feedback tomorrow on that RFP, and then turn that back to the administration and ask them about how quickly they think they can turn that around, given whatever input I have on it. And then the third one was the
The RFP for the park master plan?
is there
And I'll have a draft for you by the end of the week.
by the end of the week? Yes.
So can we set a deadline of having these publicly posted and shared by the end of this month? Because we've been talking about the solicitor since our December meeting. We've been talking about the magistrate. I don't actually know where that came from. It just all of a sudden appeared on agendas. And then the RFP for the park, that was what, our Feb?
February.
Like I keep writing down the dates that we say we're gonna get them by, and they just keep getting pushed. So I would appreciate if we hold to a
I
hard
think that sounds
deadline.
reasonable. Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. Do you have any reservations or possibility of having that by the end of the month?
I would just appreciate it if we have concerns about deadlines, that we have conversations about these except in open council meetings.
I emailed you and you don't respond. So I don't know what else I can do. I've emailed you multiple things and you've not responded. So I'm not sure. I mean, I hear you wanting me to do it behind closed doors, but there is a bit of airing this out because I cannot get answers. And I think the public also should see some of this.
If you would like to speak with myself and the mayor privately at some point, I'd be happy to have a conversation.
I don't personally feel the need for that.
I think that we
Actually,
can,
I do.
I think that we
And
can
as an
enter
employee
into
of
an
the village, I'm
executive,
requesting that.
I think it's a matter of it not being a one-on-one, we could enter into an executive session to discuss this, because I know it's not just an issue with Ms. Kramer.
Is there other interest to make a motion? Is it something that there's a desire to do that this evening as opposed to executive session of executive or another time?
It's either that or we schedule a special session, because there's a lot of outstanding items.
Do you want to, is there a motion that, I would make a suggestion that we move that to the end of the council meeting
That's fine.
in the respect to the guests that we have. So if there's a motion to that effect.
What are you doing?
There's a request for executive session concerning matters of
Okay,
employees.
but I mean, are you asking for an executive session this evening or to discuss at the end of the meeting, have an executive session some other evening?
I think the request, if I heard it correctly, was to have an executive session this evening.
Okay, is that what you
Yeah.
want?
Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, and if that fails, then we would we would need to schedule a special session, because waiting a month
Yeah.
for updates on this is not okay.
So you want a motion to set an executive session at the end of the meeting this evening?
Motion to set an executive session at the end of this meeting
What are we stating?
Oh, I'm sorry, what is?
to discuss employee matters and deadlines as they relate to
No,
outstanding
deadlines
requests.
isn't- You were right the first time. Personnel,
Personnel,
Personnel, we could, deadlines.
deadlines you can't.
Right.
But if it's
Personnel.
regarding personnel, then that's a valid reason for an executive session.
and personnel.
Is there a second? There's a second. Roll call, Mr. Friedman.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes,
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yeah.
Reimer,
Yes,
Nail,
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Good. So that will be the last order of business this evening?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else in the report?
My report is complete. Oh, actually, I do have one more thing. The 513 relief bus is available on August 21st and September 24th. Council has a preference of either of those dates,
what were they again? August 24th?
August 21st and September 24th.
I recognize with the 19th deadline, Ms. Brewer, for the newsletter stuff, it's probably really good information if we were to decide which one of these dates council would prefer to have that information included in the newsletter. Probably be
August 21st is a Wednesday. September 24th is a Tuesday, if that helps.
And I missed the beginning of that, what are these dates for?
The 513 relief bus.
Ah, yeah.
Too far away for me.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is a request that we're hearing frequently, so I'd go ahead and say the sooner the better. So I'd say the 21st would be preferable.
Okay.
So, do you want to have a vote to chime in from council on agreement? That being a date, I think that's, sounds like a good idea to me. All in favor, or motion to say so? Is there first? I'm just trying to get.
Are you doing a motion to set?
To invite the 513 relief bus? I don't really need that.
I don't think we
Okay.
need a motion, yeah.
All right, just wanted to show consensus of council.
There's no
We don't
verbal disagreement.
Without objection, yes, please schedule that and then we'll get that in the newsletter. Right. Anything else for Mr. Hurth? Mr. Brittenhood?
Very quick report tonight. I was hoping to have in front of you an amortization schedule, just information for the purchase of the police vehicle that we had discussed previously. Because there is another within the service department is pursuing the purchase of a service vehicle. It's at this point past the useful life, and both of those documents will be available at the coming finance to be reviewed. As well, there will be, just be on the lookout for, we have to amend appropriations for the road fund. The reason being is that the village has taken on the accounting essentially for the Greater Cincinnati Waterworks portion of the Hamel project. So the Hamel project is not just a road project, it's also a water project. That's why there's the new hydrants. So the village has taken on the liability, but also the accounting essentially for that project. The city of Cincinnati has sent a significant amount of money already, and we'll send the rest of that money at the end of the project to be dispersed by the village to pay the contractor who's already performed the work. It's really a technicality. It's for audit that we have to do this. It wasn't something that we ever expected when we did the budget originally. But again, as these contracts go by, if we have them do all the accounting, then we can expect, what is it, like a 6-month delay, something like this? I think it's about a 6-month delay, is what they had explained to us. So just be on the lookout for that. Again, there's nothing tonight, but just, again, it'll be vehicle purchase contracts, amortization schedules, and the amended appropriations for the road fund. There was another piece in there that, again, it'll all be brought up in finance. But for your information, stay tuned.
Anything else?
End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Brittenhood. Any questions for Mr. Brittenhood? All right, Mr. Butler. I'm sorry. I apologize. Chief Campbell.
Thank you. First thing I have is the mayor's court report for the month of March. Total to the village, $6,109. Total to the state, $1,421.50. And $55.50 went to the county. That totals for the month of $7,586 as the end of the mayor's court report.
Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll take that unanimous.
Connected to that mayor's court report, I have a citation report for that month. That was also forwarded out. Looks like the most common citations issued were no driver's license, speeding, and expired plans. If there's any questions on that, we'll answer.
So you don't really know they don't have a driver's license, you pull them over for something else?
What's that?
So you don't know that they don't have a driver's license until you pull them over for something else?
Until you make contact with the driver.
Okay. So basically they get pulled over for something else, then they did that, and so now it's just compounded on to whatever the original charge was?
Not always.
Potentially, okay.
No. If you stop something, you may have the intention, in the past, I would pull somebody over for something that I don't want to see repeated, but maybe I can give them a warning. And then you find out that they're suspended or don't have a driver's
Got it.
license. You have to deal with that. That doesn't mean they get piled on for other things.
Okay.
It just depends on the situation.
What
You-
was,
Go ahead, sorry.
do you have any insight on the chase that happened like 2 weeks ago, middle of the day, on like side streets like Chuck Harmon and Mayflower and all that?
Yeah, it was a stolen vehicle. It was, we received a block notification, this cameras that have people like stolen cars, warrants, stolen plates, things like that. We get notified that that car is in our jurisdiction. We try to locate it. The officers did, and the person was gone.
Did the chase end in Gulf Manor, or did they leave the jurisdiction?
They left the jurisdiction. Depending on circumstances and what the nature of the pursuit is and traffic conditions, there's a lot of things that play into it. We continue. We don't stop at our border. Think of like TV shows when I was a kid, where you got to the county line and you had to stop. We wouldn't have very much luck if that was the case.
Yeah.
So depending on the circumstances, officers will make the decision to continue to pursue it on.
What was your question?
They end up stopping him.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
Is there an update or information around the car break-ins? I know I had a PD stop at my house and asked me about my camera, and then I had neighbors call. Is there any update or information we can share with the community?
Nothing specific. We have images of what the person looks like, or we're trying to identify them. It's not something we deal with face time to figure out who that is. So working on that.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for Chief?
I also have the activity report.
Yes.
Forwarded that out. As I said in the past, we do 2 reports. We do with officer initiated, and then calls that were dispatched. So officer initiated responses from March were 157. Dispatched was 885, for a total of 342 runs. And it varies. If you look at it, it varies from anything you can think of. Serious crimes down to a baby deer in somebody's life that they don't know what to do with. So, that's all I have on that.
Chief Campbell, can you speak to the committee request that was made from the department? My understanding is the idea is to create a committee that serves as essentially like a liaison to council where matters concerning the police department can be discussed between council and the police department and council. Can you speak more to that request?
Yeah, we're exploring and we've requested forming a public safety committee. The purpose of that is what the mayor spoke to. Some of the things we deal with is too hard to get understanding in the few minutes I have here. So it would be an opportunity to discuss issues, trends, problems, opportunities with the committee. Just have a better line of communication and understanding that we can bring into council.
I've expressed to the chief that it sounded like a really great idea. That they've been looking at who would be on that committee. And if anybody has any questions, you either approach the chief about that or myself. Anything else?
Since we had an executive session at the end, there was an issue that came up a couple weeks ago that deals with personnel, so we can discuss that in that session as well.
Did you want to mention anything about Matt Haverkamp?
Right, I do, thank you. I was there yesterday. Yeah, that was a great success. I think we're up to the 109th canine. There's some canines that are retiring or being replaced with new animals. I think they have a goal of 9 more this year. So it was a great day, it was packed. Great event.
And golden retrievers now. Did I see a golden retriever?
I saw all kinds of dogs, depending on the use, so, bomb dogs or explosive dogs, there's a lot of different breeds, because they'll passively alert versus grabbing onto something or scratching at it. So yeah, there's different breeds.
Thank you.
Chief, we should probably add an additional, subject regarding personnel and have a motion to add to the already scheduled executive session.
Is there a motion to add the additional matter to the executive session
Regarding personnel.
regarding personnel?
Sure, I make a motion that we add the additional personnel issue to our executive session this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes?
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Reimer,
Yes.
Snell,
Yes.
Snyder.
Any other questions for Chief Campbell? Right, Mr. Butler.
Three pieces of legislation this evening. I'm going to take them in the order that's on your agenda. The first being ordinance number 2024-2 regarding replacement pages. I understand that you do not wish to pass this as an emergency this evening. However, I would like a motion to read by title only.
I'll make a motion to read by title only.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Can I clarify? So on your memo, you said that as ordinance 2023-2, but I believe it is actually ordinance 2024-2. You got it as two different ones.
I guess I see that. I apologize. It's on the ordinance. It's 2024. So
Is there a second? Or excuse me, we did have a second. Any other discussion? I apologize for hitting these. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 2024-2, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages, of the Gulf Manor codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to approve
As the first reading.
as a first reading?
Motion to approve as the first reading.
Second.
All right, roll call?
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes?
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Reimer,
Yes.
Snell,
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
The second one is resolution number 2024-5, resolution establishing policy for the flying of flags. Again, this only requires one reading, but I would need a motion to read by title only.
Motion to read by title only.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Now, to be clear, because it's a resolution, you say it does not require three readings, just
Correct.
one. But when you say emergency, it means that it goes into effect today as opposed to 30 days from today?
Correct.
Okay.
This I did not write up as an emergency,
Okay.
however. But that does not prevent council from determining it is an emergency and passing it as such.
But the difference is just now are 30 days. basically. Okay.
Mr. Butler, could you review for our audience or anyone else who has not looked over the written part of this legislation? Could you give an overview?
Can I read it by title only?
Sure.
Resolution number 2024-5, a resolution establishing a policy for flying flags by the Village of Gulf Manor on village-owned or maintained properties. This ordinance policy adopted by the resolution allows us to fly flags of a special nature. Obviously, we can fly the U.S. flag, the Ohio flag, the Village of Gulf Manor flag. However, flags of particular interests regarding any groups, this allows us to do that without running some significant risks. The risks are creating what's called, the Supreme Court case that addresses it. It makes this distinction from governmental speech to personal speech, individual speech. It's government speech. The government has, our government, Village of Gulf Manor, has a right to take a position on issues, just like any individual. As long as we take a position and don't allow our flag pole to have something to be accessible to anyone who just asks for it. Give you some background on the case. There was a community that allowed virtually anyone to fly a flag on their flagpoles. Of course, it had to be flown in conjunction with federal and state law, which always has to be under the Ohio flag, under the U.S. flag, and the other pecking order. However, this particular community allowed, flags from banks, flags from Boy Scouts, flags from every group imaginable. All they had to do, I don't even think they paid for it, they just requested it. Finally, what happened was a church group asked for their flag to be flown. And the community said, no, we're not going to allow you to fly it. They had a reason. They said, we don't want this to violate church and state. So they prohibited them from flying the flag. Well, the church took this up in court and they prevailed. And that's when this law was, this kind of bright line test, this test was established by the court between governmental speech and individual speech. As long as governmental speech, which meant it was adopted, the speech was for the flag, it's only particular flags, by the way. The concern that every lawyer has when they hear about something like this is creating a public forum. You'll recall that years ago, and I don't know if it's still going on, the city of Cincinnati had a big problem with the KKK coming in every Christmas and flying and putting up a cross. And they couldn't do anything about it because they allowed Fountain Square to be used by everybody. So that allowed the KKK to put up their cross. Well, KKK went to court, but they were turned down and they won. So every lawyer worries about that, creating a public forum. That was my first gut reaction to this request for these flags. But did some research, found the case, and this resolution addresses that. It allows us to fly, but there's obviously controls on it. Council only members of council can request the flag to flown. Council must vote on it because it's got to be government speech. It's got to be the opinion or a something that's sanctioned by the village, not just supporting any one group or just one person doing it. So that's the background behind this resolution. It is written in conjunction with law, the case law that I'm talking about, and should prevent any other groups from coming in and demanding to fly their flag, groups we don't necessarily want to fly. There's still a struggle over this, though. 2023, there was a community in Ohio that actually wrote a resolution that's opposite of this. They said, we're not flying anything other than the U.S. flag and the Ohio flag. They had been flying the POW MIA flags, and they got nervous. They didn't want other groups coming in and saying, we're going to do it. So while I'm comfortable with the resolution, don't think somebody might not climb out of the woodwork and say, hey, you're letting whatever groups fly their flag, we should have to be able to fly it too. These kind of attacks happen all the time. But I'm really comfortable with the way this is written. The mayor provided me with some guidelines. I then redid it so I would be comfortable with it. And I think it's a good piece of legislation and it will really protect the village.
I have some questions. I'm working on the Veterans Park.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some suggestions that would fly up there, the flag of each rank of the service. Would that be allowed?
Only if it's approved by this council. Because as you noted, as I noted, it says flags flown on Gulf Manor owned or maintained properties. And that would be a Gulf Manor property.
It is, right?
Right. So you'd have to make that request, bring it to council.
Okay.
Okay.
So then my next question would be, in thinking of other events and stuff that would be done, I understand, the Juneteenth flag and the, help me out here.
Pride.
Pride, I think of that word, sorry. They want to do events here if they can't fly the flag on a pole, could they,
Carry
since it's an
around.
event,
Well,
carry it around?
if it's a Golf Manor sponsored event, then that flag, and, well, first of all, again, it has to be on Golf Manor owned or maintained property.
It would be in the park.
And if it's sponsored by Golf Manor, I would have to say yes, it still has to come to this council.
Will we need to remember to approve like the FC Cincinnati and Xavier flags when they're walking down the street on 4th of July?
But yeah, that's another one.
Is that's not considered private property, flag on the pole?
Well, I mean, we maintain it.
It's, well, you know, to be safe, lawyers are, I'm relatively conservative as an attorney.
Uh-huh.
And I think it would be wise to go ahead and have the council approve it. Because the ramifications if we don't
Yeah.
are dire, in my mind.
I'm just thinking we'll
I
need
mean-
to coordinate with, Captain Reed if he's the one working with.
Look, if some Joe Schmo pulls out a Xavier flag and walks down the street with it, no,
Yeah,
even if it's during the parade. But if we've got, you know, sponsored groups that are carrying these flags, then yeah, I think we should do it.
yeah.
It seems crazy, but like I said, this is something I personally, and this is a personal thing to me, I don't want to risk having some group whose names I shouldn't mention
Right.
come in here and try and fly a flag.
I agree. I'm just worried because I know sometimes it's like, oh, Xavier might be heading to this, the mascot might be heading this place. So I just want to make sure that we're able to give this affirmation before,
Yeah.
you know, the
Right.
4th of July
Well,
event.
to be safe, you bring to council a motion that these flags
Yeah.
can be carried and flown at our, I mean, think about it, even the way I was saying it, our parade.
I guess we could just over approve, like we say,
Yeah,
we'll allow Xavier, you see, like anyone, and then that way, if it
Well,
comes
we'll-
down to last minute
we'll be
availability.
specific.
Sure, not anyone. My list is finite.
Yeah, I think it's the same like, you know, representative of, you know, colleges and universities
Yeah.
and sports
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
I think with, hope that maybe I'll be around to give you some guidance when this happens. But I would think with the more specific, the better.
Yeah.
The authority given.
I'll approve UC, I will not.
Oh, what if we're in here for hours voting on these flags?
I do think,
A petition's going.
and I've mentioned this a little bit, but in conjunction with having this policy, but I also think that this is something that is the Human Rights Commission for Gulf Manor is getting reorganized and off the ground and starting to work more proactively than just handling complaints as they come in. This would be something that they could potentially take up to perhaps develop a schedule of things that comes before council and is approved. And we can set, like, Juneteenth and Pride Month are going to overlap. So what would that schedule look like? So that we're encompassing equal opportunity for the flags that we want to display.
Sounds good.
Yeah, probably more, as you were saying, more proactive involvement of council on this is going to be necessary as we're starting up new policy. Otherwise, people aren't going to know to ask, right?
Anything else?
Regarding
Is-
policy, did this go to executive, then we have that everything should first go to executive or resolution before they go up. I'm okay with this resolution, this one here before it happens our policy.
Sorry, could you, what policy are you in violation
No, he's saying that apparent, and I understand what he's saying, he's saying that, I guess the process that people had discussed were resolutions, ordinance, et cetera, going first to executive, then here. Which I don't think is bad. I don't think that's been done historically. For example, a lot of things come from the administration, that, like, for example, the classic is this levy this evening, that, again, there's sometimes some time constraints on this. I mean, legislation comes from a lot of different sources, and it doesn't always, I mean, this was just brought to me, well, it was after the last council meeting, and probably after the after the last executive meeting. But I understand if that's the process, that's probably a good idea.
I think there's fairly uniform agreement that that's the best way to do it. And I apologize for my oversight of that. I had inferred that we wanted to get this done as quick as possible. I had sent out a template on it. And in all honesty, I even forgot that it was on the agenda until we were discussing what was on the agenda and it was on the agenda. Is there I'll ask the chair of executive, whether there's interest in delaying the,
Well, they could
Is that fair?
make a motion to, either way, to table it until such time as executive session, or there could be a motion to adopt it.
I don't feel strongly that this needs to go back to executive. It's already written. I think to bring back the point, David, there was an item in exec that was then on the legislative memo. That shouldn't happen. But, and this probably should have gone through exec, but I don't see any need to bring it back either. Unless the
We
executive
just have
makes,
to, we have to be consistent.
yes.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to turn consistent. I'm okay with surpassing it now. I'm just saying that.
But in the future,
We have
this should
to-
go
we
through
have to
exec because that's.
Keep the flow correct.
Yep.
otherwise we'll end up with issues.
Didn't this happen last council meeting as well? Something didn't go through the executive, sorry, I know I'm just like talking, but like I have a question. Like, didn't something didn't it end up going through executive and then got brought to the table last month?
That was,
Thank you for clarifying.
I have, I hesitate in saying it, but I feel like it could potentially be an issue. I had not considered Veterans Park and what you were raising, and I like that idea a lot. And I'm worried that there's going to be a conflict with the way the legislation is currently written, because we're saying where these flags can be flown at specifically.
We talked about the
So
two
we need
flag
to
poles
add
up
that.
front. Sure. So we have 2 pages. That's in my second page for some reason.
you also don't have anything in here about carrying flags, but we talked about the parade in that meeting.
About what?
Carrying flags, like somebody.
No, there is
carrying-
nothing in here on that.
But we had a discussion that would need approval.
I feel like just based on how the calendar is gonna end up working,
Freedom of speech, you could carry whatever you want. I'm not sure how that-
Yeah, I was thinking it was more in terms of like,
Even
if we
it's
have a
sponsored, if
mascot.
someone's holding the pole, there's no way we could control it, that's what.
And I agree with that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
Even if a mascot is holding.
well,
it.
my
Because we
point,
invited.
my point is, if we invite them, thank you, Mayor, if we invite them, they're part of the parade, sponsored part of the parade, then I think, and again, I'm being very conservative on this, I think for good reason. I think we need to approve it. You're right, I mean, it's freedom of speech, some Joe Schmo's walking down the street with a Xavier flag, or which one do you like? UC flag, yes.
What is the solicitor call for?
I'm not saying it.
Oh.
I'm just.
Sorry, I have to keep up with that.
So I agree with you, but if we put our fingerprints on it somehow, we have to be very careful with this. Because like I said, there are already communities that, even though the law favors this, are running away from it and are not gonna do it.
Are you able to right now make the additions that Ms. Kramer's bringing up and that I brought up?
Could something be in the second page? I don't know what happened.
There's the second page of that legislation anywhere.
We don't, I don't.
All right, I'm coming through again.
You're just so wonderful. All right, so we want to add, and I'm just gonna make a note on this, and then we'll pass it, and then I'll consolidate it into the final version. Everybody comfortable with that?
yeah, so we're passing the first reading with these amendments.
Oh, you want to do first
There's
reading
no
on it?
resolution that needs to be-
If we're gonna add something, it's just like-
That's fine.
Or should it be an ordinance?
Well,
No.
I didn't want to.
we've done this before where when it's one reading, not an emergency, that if there's a comment about something be added, if he then reads it as added and has it written in there, we can go ahead and pass it if everyone's okay with that in one reading. Or if people want to do more than one, because, I mean, the support for that would be that this version was what was released 2 days ago for people to review.
I'm very
and this-
comfortable
The one
doing,
that we're writing has not been.
I'm very comfortable with doing 2 readings. That's probably correct, the proper way to do it. I think either way would work, but
We'll let the
again,
council decide on
that's fine.
My
So-
thought is that with just the way that the calendar is going to work out, if we then move it to executive for us to have this additional discussion, this will allow us those 2 weeks to kind of marinate in this and maybe think of things that, like we've just experienced, we didn't consider before.
Mhm.
And then it can be discussed in executive and then moved to the May council meeting and passed at that time with whatever revisions come out of executive.
So I'll make some, well, I'll make,
I'm more comfortable.
Any other discussion, any other?
I,
anybody else?
I would be more comfortable with going to executive meeting.
Yeah.
Just to talk about some of these things that have just recently come up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we get the language right, like, it's definitely something I
So
want
does
to
that
make
need
sure.
a motion and second to table?
no,
No.
doesn't need anything, it just
It just dies.
dies. Don't make a motion to adopt it.
And I just want to follow the process because we've already.
So I'll make the modification suggested, so you'll see that language, and then whatever else you come up with, we can consolidate it as a final version.
Just for a point, that is the reason why it goes to executive first, that we have these discussions before we have to waste. Just pass it.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All right, Mr. Butler.
The next is resolution 2024-6 regarding the 10 mil levy equal to 7 renewal mills, and it's a renewal. It is, I have written it up, it's not as an emergency, but the anticipation is to be passed this evening to ensure that we can meet the deadlines from the state of Ohio.
Is there a motion?
So I'll make a motion, but you need to read it by title.
Yeah,
or
at least
just
a motion by title. No,
You
I
read
didn't
most of it.
I might have.
Okay.
Just to be clear, so on your first page, you do have it as passing as emergency, or declaring as emergency, but not on the actual resolution.
Where?
So on your cover letter,
Oh, on the cover letter?
that's where you've got,
Yeah, you got 2024 right.
Thank you.
you got the 2024 in that one, but
Yeah.
on 2024-6, you do have it as declaring as an emergency. But in the actual resolution, you do not. So what are we doing?
Well, we don't need to pass it as an emergency.
Okay, so we would,
We don't need to pass it as an emergency.
Is there a motion to read by title only?
Motion to read by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Resolution number 2024-6, a resolution declaring the necessity of levying a tax in excess of 10 mil limitation equal to 7.0 renewal mills and requesting the county auditor to certify matters in connection therewith.
Any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
So this was brought up a couple of times in the past, and it's just to keep our books balanced where we have it, is to pass this. We're gonna second that.
Any other comments? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer?
Yes.
Ms. Janey?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Primer?
yes.
Ms. Mail?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Ms. Kramer, Executive Committee report.
Executive Committee, the update is that we are moving into conducting the village administrator's annual performance review along with the mayor. We have clarified what that process is and developed a process. It was clear if there wasn't a clear one prior. So we will send a survey to review the administrator based on the objectives that the administrator created in August 2022. And that will be sent to the mayor, executive committee members, and department heads, and the fiscal officer to complete, as well as the administrator. And then all of that will be combined and printed back, or presented back to executive committee and then the full council by the June meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. Any questions on that process?
Other points I wanted to bring up is the hiring for the operations and fiscal clerk, an update on that, and the conflict of interest policy that we adopted. We adopted completing that conflict of interest in the rules of council, but we've not created one. So I wanted to get a better understanding of where that is, what committee that should go to, is it the administration, what is the process for actually following what we said?
Is there a preference of the administration to do a draft of that?
I can catch the
Okay, so the council decided previously to have a conflict of interest policy where we're all elected officials, and I believe is it all staff as well? I'm trying to remember what it.
I believe we can only make rules about
Right,
ourselves.
okay, yeah, so that all council members sign a conflict of interest form so that it's clear what connections they have in the community that could potentially be a conflict of interest. Do you have something in mind, a template for that?
I don't have a template for that, that's for council to decide.
All right.
They could, I mean, it could be referred to, I'm trying to think of the appropriate committee, probably the executive committee.
You okay with taking that on?
Sure.
All right. Any other discussion needed on that? Thank you, Ms. Brown. Anything else in your report?
Oh, sorry, no.
Okay, thank you. See that planning commission is next scheduled to meet, to be determined, I guess that's, to be determined based on business coming before it, which they're currently reviewing that. And, community engagement report, Ms. Brewer.
All right, got a lot of updates, so bear with me. First up, we, Transgender Day of Visibility. In observance of TDOV, on March 31st, council members Brewer and Kramer attended the raising of the transgender pride flag at Cincinnati City Hall at the invitation of City of Cincinnati Councilmember Reggie Harris. Afterwards, they were joined by Councilmember Mail in supporting PFLAG Cincinnati at the Transgender Wellness Summit at the University of Cincinnati. They would like to recognize Danny and Elizabeth Lape for the work they do with PFLAG Cincinnati to create safe spaces for people in the LGBTQIA+ community and their families, either biological or chosen. Beautification. Gulf Manor, in partnership with We Thrive, will be coordinating a spring cleaning week that takes place May 11th through the 18th. It will include a Buy Nothing swap in the community hall and end with a community cleanup day that focuses on cross streets like Chuck Harmon Way, Pieper, Bremont, etc. The clarification there being the streets that do not have a house facing it, and so typically are not cleaned up for, broken glass, trash, that kind of thing. You don't see it, you don't pick it up, right? Administration will coordinate with Rumpke to have a dumpster available in the maintenance department for tire pickup since it was so popular last year. Under We Thrive updates, Gwen Chesser and Pat Lausnell, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, have been named as neighborhood navigators for Gulf Manor. They've been asked to speak at the next Learning Collaborative hosted by We Thrive on June 11th. That is, I believe, a Wednesday maybe. It is in the evening, so the public is invited to attend. It's open to everybody, but it's in the evening from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. It's a Tuesday, thank you. About how the community has supported We Thrive and the success of the OSU cooking class, as well as the Council on Aging classes such as Tai Chi and the Matter of Balance workshop. Beginning in May, the We Thrive team meeting will be incorporated into the community engagement meeting so that we are better able to coordinate efforts and support our neighborhood navigators. The summer yoga series is tentatively set to begin on Saturday, June 8th in the community hall.
There was overwhelming feedback to move the classes indoors while leaving the option to move the class outside if the weather is nice. The instructor from previous years is very excited to come back this summer. I met with her just yesterday, and has an established rate that is well within the normal range for these types of classes. This rate would be for a total of 9 Saturday classes and 1 to be held on a weeknight to gauge interest for a weeknight fall or winter series, restorative or something like that. Additionally, We Thrive is also working on their 2024 assessments, which is comprised of meetings with residents and administration. Gulf Manor's public health specialist, Shaya Ladavs, will be reaching out to coordinate meetings to complete the assessments. Residents can email wethrive@gulfmanorohio.gov to participate in the assessment interviews. And a copy of this report will be attached to the minutes for people to access these details as well. Strategic plan. The Gulf Manor website now has a dedicated page for the strategic plan. It is simply gulfmanorohio.gov /strategic-plan. There is a list of relevant documents, including the town hall feedback summary, a timeline of the work done to date, a link to the current strategic plan outline, and a link to the survey for people unable to attend the town halls. The survey closes on Friday, May 3rd at 5 p.m. And a summary of that initial survey will be ready for the following community engagement meeting. Communications. Efforts are underway to increase our communications in the village. The editorial schedule for the newsletter is set with targeted publishing dates in June, September, and December of this year. We are accepting content ideas for the June edition until Friday, April 19th. Residents can email community@gulfmanorohio.gov with their submissions. The Recreation Commission, an informal session for the Recreation Commission was held on Thursday, April 4th. We discussed ideas for raising money for the Recreation Fund, as well as hosting a cornhole tournament at the 4th of July picnic. The administration will be contacting the commission members to have them complete their background check authorization forms in the next week or so. Communication will then be going out to all commission members to make sure that they are in attendance for the official kickoff of the Recreation Commission on Thursday, May 9th. Separately, with regards to the Recreation Commission, there are a number of ordinances that are out of date and refer to facilities that are no longer in operation in the village. I am working with the administration and the solicitor to review these ordinances and propose updates to council in an upcoming meeting. In the interim, it is proposed to have the Recreation Commission operate as a subcommittee of community engagement and combine meeting times until the ordinances are updated. A couple of points for discussion. Committee vacancies. We have a handful of vacancies. I know that there are some on the Recreation Commission. We've talked about some terms that are for renewal on the Planning Commission. There's one that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. And then also the Human Rights Commission. There are 2 spots available there. So I do want to discuss perhaps, I've outlined what I'm proposing, but making a post on the website with the open seats and the description of committees so that residents have the ability to research based off of their interests and make an application and submit an application. Setting a due date for the applications to be received from the public, and then perhaps set a target of the May council meeting to a finalized review of those applications and then appoint those residents to vacancies. I can pause here. I can finish the rest of my report if we want to discuss.
Yeah, I have a question about the turnaround time that council is comfortable with after the applications come in. I didn't do the math myself on how many days there are from the due date of all those applications coming in to review those prior to making nominations.
I didn't say one. I just, if we want to work backwards from a calendar of when that would be due.
I misheard you. I thought you had given a date. Sorry.
Yeah, it'd be lovely if we could have people appointed in May and have that and work backwards from that date, but allowing time for it to be on the website and then for people to respond, and then us to publicize it on social media, so on and so forth. Maybe June's more reasonable. date.
You making a proposal this evening, the resolution, that the recreation, subcommittee of,
Yeah, that's in the next section.
no, you said it already. I thought you said it
I did, yeah,
already. Okay,
but I haven't like actually moved it, like,
okay,
that was just my
all
update.
right, I got you.
Any thoughts on, committee vacancies, any timelines? What is reasonable with everybody's schedules?
The planning commission, we already have 3 people applied, right?
It's just a matter of reviewing them and then
Exactly.
making the recommendation, so we can do different ones based off the committees. Or if we have, since we haven't really published it online, giving everybody a fair shake to apply.
Any objection to having a week period of time, 1 week while it's online? I'm working backwards as far as trying to do this, you said May 9th? Is that our? I'm
No, our
sorry.
May council meeting is like May 18th or something.
Okay, so if we have the objection to it, a 2-week period of time to review
Looks like May 20th.
applications?
Sorry, it looks like May 20th is the next meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
So,
On the planning commission, if there is indeed a fence variance, I'm aware of a potential hearing for a new business that I'm working with. That would be on Tuesday, calendar, I believe, is Tuesday, the 14th.
Of May,
And
But there are enough people on the planning commission to move forward, correct?
there's a quorum. I just wanted to make you aware
yeah.
that there may be 2 issues coming up.
Yeah, the next scheduled meeting would be on Tuesday, June 4th.
What about in May?
That schedule, I think, is every other month, so we didn't have a date
For planning?
penciled in for planning.
So if we get a variance, we are required, after so many days after receiving the variance, to hold a meeting. Correct?
Correct, you get a variance request, that's correct.
So we may have to add that meeting
That's fine.
if I receive something in the next week.
What
or
is
so.
that time frame?
Let's say 30 days.
I have to receive the request within 10 days of the hearing date to be able to send out public notices.
I think with that potential fence variance, I think was that the one that you were talking? Is it?
Just let them know.
Yeah. I think she was waiting on a response from,
Yeah, to my understanding, she applied for a fence, it got denied, so she applied for a fence variance and has yet to hear from somebody. That's been a month.
so I don't know that regardless, we can set a date for that one and we can make the planning commission like the priority.
So it's the second Tuesday of the month, I believe.
I do know that one of the commissioners has a birthday on that day. On the 14th, if that's what we're still talking about, are
So
we
just-
So that
I think it would end up being the 7th.
the 7th
Yeah.
of
May.
May? Okay.
So the 7th is out?
No,
The 14th is out.
Okay.
Proposing the 7th.
So I think it'd be prudent to put that on the calendar just in case.
but with them having quorum, this doesn't affect the timeline of accepting applications, the social media piece of thing, getting the information out there, and the amount of time that we review the applications, right? So I was asking if there's objections to having a 2-week window for working backwards from the next full council meeting. If we have a 2-week window for everyone to review applications, so we'd say that those applications would be due 2 weeks prior to the council meeting.
Which is the 20th.
I don't know if that's reasonable, only because we don't have this on our website. So then you're giving folks a really short amount of time to even, one, find out about it and apply.
Okay,
So I personally don't think a May is gonna be feasible. You have to actually inform people.
Yeah, I think if we can I think it's reasonable to get something on the website by the end of, by the end of this month. And then from there, I think if we are targeting a June council meeting, that would be 6/17. Is this something that we would want to run through like executive committee for reviewing applications, review it as a full council? What, like, this is a relatively new process that we'd be following, right?
This feels like community engagement. It's getting more people involved in our, that's my opinion, it feels like community engagement.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not on that committee, so I don't know your directives.
I was thinking the 2-week period of time would be for council members through notification and community engagement to be aware that there's applications that have been submitted, that they can look through those, so they have a 2-week period of time before being asked to chime in on it.
Yeah, so if we did, so if by April 30th, we have that set as the deadline to get the vacancies posted, fully identified and posted on the website, and then subsequent social media posts to make sure that residents know that they are out there. And then we can have that application period end on, honestly, May 31st. That gives a full month for people to review. I mean, nothing fast happens, right? And then that would give us a couple of days to compile everything and review them in the community engagement meeting on June 6th. And then from there, and all of council would be invited to that meeting. Like, this is definitely not just a community engagement committee decision, like it should be. I would love to have all of you there too. Give input.
So you're gonna, let me understand this. So you're planning on taking all the applications and reviewing them in community engagement and making the decision without the rest of us?
That was.
No, I'm
yeah.
saying I'm inviting you to that.
I really don't wanna go to another meeting, there's so many meetings. I'm not gonna be in town May 7th if you have to have a planning commission that day. So I don't think there's a quorum for that. But why can't we all get copies of the applications and review them?
That's what we're discussing. We're discussing what that process would look like.
Oh,
The
okay.
suggestion on the table is that it go through community
Okay.
engagement. I'm not in the business of having more meetings. I'm doing a ton of work already. So the fact that I'm asking you all to come to one additional meeting is not that much compared to what I feel that I'm doing for this council.
Is it, what do you think of the idea of it's discussed and everything in community engagement, but that those are emailed out to all the council members? when they're
Yeah, and I
consolidated?
can
So
take
folks
feedback
that
via
can't make
email.
it to the meeting or whatever, they can review all those, and then it's, to that point about the decision being made, that's, anybody can make nominations, right?
Yeah.
So if all council members have that packet, then nominations can be made at the next council meeting, based upon what community engagement says, based upon what any council member
Yeah.
thinks, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I think concurrently, we are also working through a more streamlined process for nominating people to the committees and commissions, so that we are avoiding some of the issues of the past few months of people not knowing they were on them or thinking they were on one when it was the other, so that way we are being more thorough and thoughtful with everything, with all of it.
it's excellent work. Any other comments? Questions answered? No?
All right, so just to make sure I'm understanding, so by 4:30, we will have stuff posted to the website with the vacancies and information on the committees. We will have an application due date of May 31st. We will send the application packets out to all members of council with the invitation that they attend the community engagement meeting if they have some that they would like to discuss. And then from there, the community engagement committee will make recommendations to full council for the meeting on the 17th to finalize these appointments and fill the seats. Did I get that right?
Any comment? Any concerns?
My only comment was, prior to this process, I had recommended Danny to being added to planning and zoning. Is that happening? Is that being held up now to this process? Because I don't believe you've been formally added, is that correct?
So the consideration process of the three candidates needs to take place.
Well, that's a
I
new
sent those
process,
to you.
is what
Okay.
we're saying, correct?
So yes, so getting clarification on the planning commission one, which you're saying the next meeting, does that happen at the planning commission meeting or does that happen as a?
Council needs to appoint.
My understanding is it's the question about the process being followed for an application that was, or a nomination that was made prior to this new policy.
It's 2 months
New
ago,
process.
I nominated Danny.
So I guess the pertinent question is, when would this policy like go into effect? Can we go ahead and make?
Or.
Is it in effect retroactively for a nomination still
Right.
pending?
Right,
Correct.
exactly. Any comments on that?
Because you and I have emailed about,
Right,
because I believe it's actually, council nominates our council representative, but the mayor still appoints people to the planning and zoning commission.
right.
Is my understanding.
And
That's the way it works.
Hold on,
That's
let
what
me
we
just read verbatim. Planning Commission shall consist of 5 members. One shall be a member of council, selected by council, shall serve until the expiration of the term of the council, during which he is selected. The other 4 shall be appointed by the mayor with the approval of council, and at least 3 of these must be electors of the village. So one may be a non-citizen. But he has to own, operate, or have a business in the village.
so the question is, in terms of the vacancies, are they mayor appointment vacancies? Is it a council appointment vacancy?
Mayor
Mayor
appointed,
appointed.
council approved.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
You understand?
So I had previously made my decision on who I was going to appoint. So the question is council going to does council object to me going ahead and doing that?
I
Because
feel like
obviously
we
I need
already,
your approval.
if we already have nominations, we should put those forward. And then this is for vacancies that do not have nominations, where you are not appointed.
Right.
That's fair.
Any objection to that? Okay. So my nomination would be of Danny. Is there a motion to approve? Or I should say roll call?
What
Or
are
do I need to have a motion?
qualifications?
There's an application that I can
I
have you
haven't
look
seen
at.
it.
Okay, well,
We're
that's,
gonna vote on it without seeing it,
You voted on people previously, I believe, without seeing their application.
but I don't know her. I do know the other 2 that have been on planning commission
Danny has.
for a
her
long
executive-
time, excuse me. And it's hard to learn that position. And if you've got somebody coming into the neighborhood that hasn't been around for a while, and then learning all that, it's gonna take time.
I can ask Danny if she's comfortable speaking to the,
I was just sure, are there any concerns, any qualifications you're looking for?
Well, how long have you lived in Gulf Manor?
So I've lived in Gulf Manor almost a year, actually a year.
Okay, that's not long enough to learn a whole lot about Gulf
The
Manor.
ordinance in its entirety as well, and I work in construction, so I've been in the construction industry for over 12 years. I've been in commercial construction, where I worked with a multi-billion-dollar general contractor, built a $150 million good VA medical hospital out in Long Beach, California. Worked on the $1 billion additional campus, well, the new campus with the VA hospital on Louisville. Currently working with a smaller local company, but I mean, I've gone through ins and outs of RFPs, from writing contracts, understanding specs to, digging into the ordinances themselves. So, and again, I'm not trying to overtalk you. Just want to make sure. Is there a minimum requirement for how long somebody needs to live in the village to be part of these
It's a year.
committees?
is it a year?
It's a year.
But that's, in the seat that's open, but you've been here a year, the seat that's open isn't one of those, because I know that one of those doesn't have that requirement on it, right?
That's the business owner.
Does it say they have to have a business, or does it just say?
Yeah, they have to have a, where does it say year one?
I don't believe it does anymore.
It's in the application, but it's not in the
Okay,
ordinance.
so,
So the application doesn't trump the ordinance, so there's no year period. I mean,
so it's just moot point.
yeah,
So my understanding is that we have 3 applications for 2 seats, correct? What has been the review process under the old guidelines or old process of these 3 to fill 2 seats?
Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation for that second seat as well?
I do, I believe it's, trying to juggle which question to answer first. So what the process has looked like in the past is that individuals have approached me. I've told them they got to submit an application to our administrator, or someone has already submitted an application to the administrator, and the administrator forwards them to me. What it looked like this time around is I had the application first from Danny. I was told that there was 2 other existing seats that were interested in reapplying. I asked for the applications for them, and recently, I think last week, received those applications for the other 2. So I believe the other individual is Mr. Blathers, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, so those would be my 2 recommendations.
Mr. Simpson.
And Mr. Simile was the 3rd.
Actually, didn't you just say, Mr. Butler, that it has to be 3 elected or voting officials?
Yeah.
And
Out of the 5 members, 4 appointed by the mayor with approval of council, 3 of the 4 must be electors of the village. That just means they're residents. They're not on council.
And for clarification, often in terms of my process, what I'm looking at, I believe in rotation of leadership. I believe in trying to get people involved that haven't been involved. I like to qualify that with folks that have experience. I haven't seen anyone with more experience than Danny, so just like a very simple decision on my part there. And looking at Mr. Blathers and Mr. Simile, it was that piece about getting new blood in there. And to the concern about experience coming in, I think that's a valid concern. In the case of Danny, I see it as not much of an onboarding process being necessary with that because of the extensive background knowledge. It's more of just like how procedures work within the planning commission. And with Mr. Blathers, I think if we're looking at a commission of this many people and you have one less experienced person on it, it's not going to make a difference in the functionality of the commission.
We don't deal much with construction, though, do we?
Planning,
There's an element of it.
An element of it, okay.
but it's also the awareness that's broader than that about issues of zoning and all that. That's incumbent in the job of someone that's in construction.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
As a 21-year resident of the village with, let's see, quickly approaching 30 years experience in the construction industry, residential, I would say that I think it is very vital for you to consider trying to keep Mr. Blathers on the committee.
Yeah.
He is the only person of color on the committee and is the only person on the committee who is not only a landlord, but resides in the village. As a landlord.
Right. And there's 2 seats that are open.
And I'm no longer interested.
I appreciate thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. So we have 2 nominations for 2 seats, and my decision is that I would put before council for a vote is Danny and Mr. Blathers. So I can do this properly. Can you pronounce your last name for me? That's my hesitation. I just don't want to do it wrong. Leap? Okay.
Lee?
Can I ask for clarification? There's a minimum number that we're supposed to have. if there's something like this were to come up in the future, there's nothing that prohibits us from saying yes to all 3 folks, because there's nothing wrong with more community participation. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Any,
I don't know, what do you mean?
Like, it doesn't say this body.
Whoa, whoa.
Which one do you like the
I
most?
will speak for myself.
Yes, I thought so.
If there is 3 people interested and we have a minimum seat requirement of 2 vacancies, right? And we want to add 3 people, there's nothing saying that we can't add more than the minimum, correct?
You mean,
Charter.
yeah, the charter
But the
says,
charter doesn't have a max.
well,
just has a
no,
minimum.
it says definitively shall consist of 5 members.
Thank you. But other committees outside of this commission, do they have a maximum or a set number?
I mean, I think everyone looks at it differently. I know,
Okay, we can look at that later.
yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to understand if we had to actually narrow it to 2 or if we could invite more people.
any other questions or discussions on this matter before I ask for a vote?
These terms would be expiring what date?
You have to go back and enforce, it's when members serve 4 staggered terms, right? So you really have to go back and look at who they're replacing to figure out when their term expires.
All right, we'll mark that as a follow-up then.
So with regard to my nomination, do I need to make a preference if he gets the longer term, or can I say that I'll, on approval,
Well,
that we can decide that later, or does it have to be decided ahead of the vote?
it probably should be decided now, because I don't know that there's gonna be an objection to these 2, but by the same token, there may be a preference as to which one serves longer, maybe, I doubt it. But if you want to do this precisely correct, you should know who they're replacing and how long their term's gonna be.
Is there,
Or when it's gonna expire.
so I had mentioned that as far as if I was ranking experience, and I can be wrong about this, and I apologize if I am, my reading of the applications was that Ms. Lappe had more experience, and that to the extent that there's any kind of issue with onboarding someone with less experience, that would be my basis for suggesting that that's the longer term.
That's,
there than Mr.
I think you can do it that way, and you determine, then that will be determined by when. I don't know.
I think you're only replacing Steve's seat, correct? Because you're just renewing David, so we don't need to, he would just keep his term, correct?
Excellent
So there is
point.
no
Yeah,
question.
right, yeah.
So it would be, is it a 3-year term then?
It is a 3-year.
4-year term?
Well, it's a 4-year term, but they're staggered, so you just don't know when he
Well,
started.
so
Right, so
Steve
his
is from
ends-
January 2020. So I would assume 2024,
Correct.
so this would be from,
It's a 4-year, 4-year staggered terms commencing January 1 and even numbered calendar years.
I mean,
website. We were to get that, so the website says 2020.
I probably looked up ordinances. Really?
So,
The mayor's asking for recommendations at this point.
well, I thought you were saying because Ms. Late,
Late.
yeah, I just,
Late.
hey,
Late.
thank you, that way went better. Ms. Late, in your estimation, has the more experience and so on, that whatever is the longer term served, she
Okay.
would start.
So
with that.
effectively, I could be just flip-flopping his
You don't- I don't-
renewal into the.
Since you don't know the date, will you just say that she would serve the longer term and then the other gentleman would be plugged in? If there's a difference, which there
Yeah.
should be.
That's my feeling on it, my recommendations to council, or my recommendation. So that's what I want to do, and I'm asking, I guess, for a vote on your approval. If there's any other questions or concerns,
Sorry for the minutes, what was the recommendation?
that Ms. Late have the longer of the 2 terms available, Mr. Blathers have the shorter of the 2 terms available. And I'm asking if there's any questions or comments before asking for roll call vote on affirmation of.
So is there to be a motion to affirm the appointment?
Yes.
Was there a motion made prior to our discussion of Ms. Late?
There was no motion to affirm.
Okay,
Is there a motion to affirm?
motion to affirm.
This is, Just Miss Late?
Yeah, do them one at a time.
Okay.
I missed that.
And the second was by,
Brittany?
All in favor? Or-
Aye.
Aye.
So, roll call, sorry.
I want to do roll call.
Yeah.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Primer,
Yes.
Ms. Nail,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Very good. Motion to accept Mr. Blather's
So moved.
We need a motion. There.
second. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Primer,
Yes.
Ms. Nail,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Anything else, Ms.? Sorry.
Okay, so planning commission has decided, we've talked about the other vacancies that are identifiable, moving on. Okay, so, other proposed actions, I do have I want to put forth a motion to review the Recreation Commission ordinances under community engagement and report back to full council when ready. Here's a second. Can I do that?
You,
Are there,
you can just put it on your own.
I was gonna say, I don't think you need council's permission, it's in your committee, so.
Excellent. Then it's there. Do I need to also make a motion to have the Recreation Commission operate as a subcommittee of community
So
engagement?
that would be different, yeah.
Okay.
Because that is also addressed by the charter. And it most decidedly, if I recall, it creates them as distinct entities. I mean, I know we talked about that when we had, I don't want to backdoor you, but I just.
It just says that one should exist,
It does say that one should exist.
so we can continue to refer to it as Recreation Commission. It just would be, we're trying to consolidate efforts because so much of the time spent in community
So you want the
engagement,
Recreation Commission, which will exist as an independent, what would be,
subject to its own quorum.
subject to its own quorum, rules, and
It's purely organizational, so that we are not duplicating efforts between multiple groups of the same people.
that could be done easier. I mean, Laying
Then
out.
guide me.
Well, laying out this thing, the mission statement of each body would hopefully eliminate that kind of duplication of effort. I think if you maintain it as a separate body and just say, well, act in conjunction with, that's what you want?
And it's
then we'll do that.
we would operate as we have been as a joint meeting.
But they're
And we can take
independent,
separate roll calls and so on.
independent bodies.
Yep.
Okay,
And
yes.
that there would need to be an affirmation once it's operational, right, from the Recreation Commission, because they create their own rules for their own, like,
Affirmation of,
that they're gonna operate as, on the same,
I think so.
at the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
That's-
Yes.
It's just procedural.
Same with the community.
We drive.
Yeah.
Oh,
You good?
Any questions?
Any extra steps that I need to take at this moment?
Well, if you want to do that, I think we need to follow, you need to have a motion. If we're gonna basically almost consolidate or have them operating in sync. With duplicate meetings and so on, I think you have to have a motion.
I'm thinking that I think you could be wrong on this. Community engagement is independent of council. They're setting their, well, I was gonna say you guys set your own schedule, but that was actually done by full.
Yeah.
All right, so, I think it's just a matter of when recreation first meets, that they say that they're gonna do this.
Yeah, because we are recognizing that this is a group of individuals who, we are getting them together for the first time. It has taken so long for us to get to this point to where we are ready for them to meet and actually start to do work.
Yeah.
That what is happening is there is a backlog within community engagement of projects that are more suited towards recreation, and we're talking about them in circles and, hypotheticals. This is purely temporary for us to be able to have everybody around the table that we're all working on the same things, and we can more easily divide
Then-
the work to be
then
done.
do that. you don't need any action by anybody.
Excellent.
If you're not combining them, or you've said that recreation would be like a subcommittee. If you're not doing any of that, you're welcome to schedule meetings at the same time, discuss issues, and yes, should be probably a temporary arrangement to kind of dole out.
As we've sorted through the ordinances and everything else.
Yes, I think
So,
that's fine. I don't think you need anything from council. I think the committees decide how you're going to
okay,
accomplish your goals.
perfect. Yeah, I just don't want to lose the momentum of having these volunteers ready to go
No,
and in
absolutely.
6 months.
It's important to have them all in the loop, right?
Yep.
Have a place for them. I've got one question around review of the ordinances, which was a question that I had asked of you earlier, a couple of weeks ago. I think. So we have the charter that lays out the rules that lays out the definition of the
Yep.
commission. And then when we updated the charter, there was an update that says that any changes to the Recreation Commission would be set by ordinance.
If I have the updated, okay,
Yeah, and then when I had asked you to investigate if there were any ordinances, and there were not. Is what I was
I did not find it.
Yeah, so there aren't ordinances to be reviewed other than,
I'm sorry, what?
so the definitions laid out in the charter,
Mhm.
rules for the creation of the Recreation Commission,
Mhm.
all right? And then when we made our update of the Recreation Commission, it said you can update these, not having to go through the normal process of updating the charter in order to change anything about the Recreation Commission. You can change the Recreation Commission by ordinance, all right?
Do we have those updated ordinances that are
There
available
was-
online?
There was never any updated ordinances.
Okay. The
So-
reason why it's brought up for discussion now is because I believe it was a document that you prepared for distribution to,
Yeah.
in like the first rec commission meeting, it is referencing, I can't directly tie them back, and I'm not gonna do the work to go back and tie them back to all of the ordinances that currently exist, but in just reviewing some of it, for example, the most glaring issue that I take with it that I want further clarification on is that we are stating that the individual that is appointed as the chair of the Recreation Commission is serving as then like the de facto recreation director, which is a position that doesn't exist for a recreation facility that isn't in operation. And all of the ordinances that we can tie back to that are available online, they're all from, 1976, or even the most recent update was 1999.
Right.
So if there are additional, and this might have been the point to Sandy's speech last time, is that, if we have this information, we need to dot our i's and cross our t's. And so that's what I am proposing, is a deep dive look into it while we are also putting these, getting these volunteers into these positions that they've been assigned to.
I agree, and following, that's what started the conversation, because
Yeah.
my understanding was that there was never any ordinance that allowed for the change in forum, is what I was.
Yeah, I don't want to get into
Yeah, I
that
don't
this
wanna get
evening
in- I don't want
because
to get into it either.
there is a whole other issue with the website that we can address at a different time.
Right.
But the fact is, and we can put a pin in it for now, that we'll have these discussions about the ordinances, even just a review, and we come back and our report is they are fine, go with God, proceed as you wish. Or, here are some proposed changes to bring them current, based off of our current situation.
Just to clarify, again, the Recreation Commission, Section 802 states the number and rules and regulations of the members, and the rules and regulations of which shall be set out by ordinance. So that's what we need to find out. And
Yes.
I didn't find any. I looked back to the date of the amendment here.
Yeah.
So we may be just starting from scratch, where we need a brand new ordinance setting out, again, number, rules, et cetera.
If it doesn't exist, then I don't want us to infer that they,
Years.
Over the years, maybe,
Yeah.
but since the date of this,
So when we updated the charter, remember when we updated the charter?
Oh,
There was a
okay.
statement that was made.
I'm
there.
quite certain you're right, over the
Okay.
years. Yeah. And that's, one point I'll just, I'm not even sure it's appropriate for right now, but there are a number of things in the charter and then in other sections of our code that aren't consistent. And I know Ron and I have talked about kind of bringing them current. And so I think at some point I've got to go through it and some of it's going to mean amending the charter, honestly, which is an ordeal. But there are a number of things in here that need to be polished on.
My last item for proposed actions is I would like to make a motion to approve out of the funds already appropriated for Recreation Commission, the $750 to pay for the yoga instructor for the summer yoga series. And if that's out of process, then tell me.
It's a motion.
It is a motion.
Is that,
I'll second.
Thank you.
$200, doesn't need to be.
yeah, so I think the question was on process.
I understand that. I think as a motion for that amount of money for the yoga instructor, I mean,
Yeah,
it's more,
yeah, so my thinking was that, I think that would be great. I'm wondering about the legality of the appropriation of funds, which council can do, but it's, I don't know what bucket of money this is
We have
in.
a
if it's
recreation
in-
fund.
Right.
There's about $600 and some in there right now.
Yeah.
We have
Leave it that
appropriated
alone.
$2,000 to spend for recreation. So I'm asking to use $750 of that $2,000 appropriated. These monies, honestly, to be fair, with the plans that the Recreation Commission and Community Engagement has talked about with fundraising opportunities, there's a couple in the hopper that I'll discuss in future meetings as we flesh out the details, but this will be replenished. And then
I
some.
just have one question. I know the answer is she's a 1099 employee, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So that makes a difference. She's not an employee.
It's like
If you're paying for, I don't know,
She'll submit a W-9 or whatever whatever you need.
I think We Thrive paid for her next year.
Yes, but that money is not available this year. So that's why I'm proposing to our budget.
So
And so.
in terms of
deferring the-
process, because the fund has not received, meaning the fund has the money appropriated, but that doesn't mean that there's actually money in the bank account. It just means that that's allowed to be spent. So that would require a fund advance transfer, which we've talked about in previous situations. But again, I would do that on my own on a situation where there was a budgetary constraint and we knew there was money coming in. So we haven't seen money come in yet. I know that we've talked about that. There's previous activity that money was raised for a specific event. I would recommend a conversation like that come from finance, but it doesn't, again, maybe that's for the future. I don't do we have, are we okay with doing that? We're gonna fund the recreation fund with that advance up to the full $2,000 and then whatever money is received afterwards, we're comfortable with doing that?
I'm fine with we're not starting this until June, so I don't know how much lead time we would need. I'm fine to discuss it with,
Again, I'm saying that only in the interest of being consistent with the process.
totally, yeah,
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
To just discuss that in finance, even a 3-minute conversation, just that it could be on the minutes in finance and then it's supported when that fund advance transfer takes place.
yeah, and this is totally just it coming out of community engagement,
Understood.
and then we
Right,
can
it's that would
right
be
back to
so that's the
finance.
report
Yeah.
to, so, okay, I'm following your process. That's the report to full council. From full council, then as chair of community engagement, you'd be recommending it to be discussed in finance as a way of pre-funding the recreation commission, the recreation fund. Okay.
So I guess amending the motion to ask the finance committee to,
Would we need a motion to move this?
Just a recommendation.
Yeah.
The same thing, like you don't have to
Yeah.
put anything on you don't need a motion to put stuff on your own agenda. You
Yeah.
can recommend to David to put it on his agenda, and then that just goes on to the next finance.
perfect.
All right, very good. Anything else? Burrow?
Yeah, last two things. Sorry. Looking ahead, we are finalizing and passing the background check policy. We are working with the administration on identifying and scheduling DEI training for council and the Human Rights Commission. I'd like to explore internship opportunities with local colleges and universities. There's a potential for a community-based project with Dr. Kimberly Hunger, professor of public administration at UC. Applications for the Landsman fiscal year 25 community project funding and appropriations request is now open. More details to follow. Upcoming events, tomorrow is We Thrive Day, so look on their social medias. We took our picture last week. May 5th is the Soapbox Derby. We talked about May 11th through 18th being Spring Cleaning Week. June 8th is the Summer Yoga Series kickoff class, and then June 14th is our Juneteenth celebration.
So just because you brought it up, you mentioned the dumpster. That was something that we were approached by Hamilton County and paid for meaning that was paid for from Hamilton County. We didn't pay for that directly. That was not something that was specifically set up that was an expected expense. So if that was something that the village wanted to pursue and we are not receiving the funding from the county, that would have to be discussed. However, we have not heard from them yet, so I can reach out to them.
Okay.
And just so that that's not.
And that was the dumpster for the tires?
That's the dumpster for the tires, correct?
Okay.
Do we, in our Rumpke contract, I know we get new
Dumpster
dumpsters,
tires are
but
different.
that's what
Dumpster for tires are different. It's only for tires and it's a specific rate.
So the dumpster last year came from Keep Cincinnati Beautiful, which I believe is it Aaliyah? Is that the current coordinator?
Shayla.
Was close. I think she mentioned that she would check into that.
Yep, so we'll reach out to Keep Cincinnati Beautiful to see if that's
So I
available again.
don't have to reach out to
I'll
them?
follow up with you.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's do that.
Charlotte, do you anticipate this being something that can be put in the newsletter as well, that goes out?
It will already have taken place by the time the newsletter goes out. It'll be the next edition's June 1st.
Be a good one for 25 newsletter in second quarter though.
Totally, yeah. I will add it to my schedule.
Any questions for Ms. Burrow? All right. Mr. Fisher?
No.
I'm sorry, Planning Commission. I'm sorry.
No,
No, education report, I apologize. Where are my glasses? I got this.
I had my education report together, and then right before I left the house, the principal changed it. So PRM, LSDMC met last Wednesday. We don't have our budget yet from CPS because they're still going over everything. LSDM will approve it on April 23rd, we're hoping. PRM will get a second, well, this is what changed. We were gonna get a second assistant principal because we're averaging 750 kids. But Ms. Simpson went and wheeled and dealed, and she wants to get a classroom in place for 9 to 12-year-olds. So she said it looks like they're gonna let her have that in place of the principal. Okay. State testing has had an entire state outage on April 10th. The goal is still to complete it by April 19th. It is due by April 23rd. Parents, please make sure that your child's PC is charged and ready to go that day when they are tested. Please don't give them any heavy breakfast as it makes them fall asleep. And they must be on time, and we do get points for each child that takes it. The projections for our 2024 to 25 enrollment is 756 from CPS. Ms. Simpson is appealing that as she believes it's slow. Our staffing depends on what our enrollment projections are for next year. We currently have 763 kids. PRM was denied a psychologist for next year and an intervention specialist. I don't think she changed those.
They were denied funding for it, so.
Yeah, denying funding because they're cutting back.
We didn't say.
They were approved to use the cell tower funds to maintain their paraprofessional position. That was going to be cut by CPS. I'm sorry, the class that she's gotten in place of the assistant principal, is our 13th class for ages 6 to 9. Got a lot of kids in that age group. CPS has cut our 1 intervention specialist and a 9 to 12 teacher. Okay. Teacher transfer rounds are beginning April 17th this week for any school vacancies and long-term subs. The second round will open May 1st, and the decisions for the transfers will be made on May 15th. Parents. Oh, and also, Mrs. Simpson wanted to make sure that parents are aware for next school year that school does not start after Labor Day. It starts before that. So it's important to have all our kids start on time, because if they aren't there, we could lose a classroom. May 22nd is the 6th grade recognition at 5 p.m. May 23rd is the last day of school. And then the CPS board is having a public meeting April 17th, this Wednesday. It's going to be at 4 p.m. It's also going to be online. They're going to discuss the draft of the ad hoc school changes, which is what they're cutting, and the budget cuts. And then also right after that is a district-wide LSDMC meeting. So I'm going to be online from 4 to 8 o'clock. I love it. Okay. And at that LSDMC district-wide will be principals from Hughes, STEM, High School, and Withrow University to speak. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, try and answer them.
Do you have any need of support from the council for anything with your project education?
Oh, with education? Not right now, but maybe if you want to go any further into all this, because I can't cover it all.
Yeah.
No. So the CPS was having all these budget cut meetings right now. It's hard to keep up with.
It's a huge thing. Any questions for Ms. Cheney? Thank you for your report. Mr. Fisher.
Sorry, I missed the previous meeting. Quick update of what occurred over there was, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, because I forgot I had to give a report.
There was a recommendation that we could go ahead and purchase a new police vehicle. I think it was passed up to council, but I did not see it on today's agenda. I'm assuming it will be on the next agenda.
That'll be on the next full council. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Brewer wanted to know about the ARPA funding, and Mr. Kramer wanted an update on the RFP. I think both of those were already mentioned, or going to be mentioned, end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. Fisher?
We got a budget for fans. And fix it. Put that on your agenda.
What is the status of AC repair?
Further questions?
And we just need to get one unit right here.
All right, I have under new business, our first item, an update on the municipal building access. Want to speak to that?
I think our report went out to all the council members.
Any questions concerning that report?
Concerning the building being locked and people trying to get in.
Correct.
I will say that we got another comment today from a community member about the same issue. And also that the bathrooms in the park are not unlocked. And when they came over here, and I believe it was Officer Jill Matthews who said, "You're lucky I was here and could answer this, so you can come in and use the bathroom." but that normally the building is not staffed. And I know that when we had the solar eclipse viewing at the park, there were lots of people asking, the water fountains aren't on, the bathrooms aren't unlocked, and I didn't have answers.
So the bathrooms won't be open until we're done with freezing weather. There's no heat over there to keep the pipes from freezing. That'll be sometime probably mid-May.
So Officer Matthews from the second, third hand, had stated that the bathrooms won't be unlocked unless there's an event that the community is putting on. So I just want to clarify that information.
Generally, the bathrooms are unlocked by the maintenance department when their shift starts at 7:30.
Okay.
And then the police department locks them at dusk.
Is it
What about
possible?
the weekends?
What about the weekend?
Because they're not here on the weekends. Service department's not here.
So the police department would control them during the weekends.
Is it possible to have a sign on the bathrooms or thereabout that let folks know about both the dates being available?
Sure.
When they'll be available?
There was discussion last year regarding automatic locks, doing
Right.
automatic, open and close.
I'm sorry, say that
There
again?
was discussion in the past about having automatic locks put on them so that, or not automatic, yeah, so remote locks put on them. So that,
So I'll check with our IT manager to see where we are with that.
any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Brewer.
We, questions off,
These are just my regular agenda items. If we wanted to postpone the executive meeting, we can. I can postpone one of them. I think that needs to go under the request for village reports. I think that can go under the executive meeting. The other two items I had were ARPA funds and the proposed revision to rules of council. I can be brief on the proposed revision to rules of council in terms of, I sent the templates out to y'all a week or two ago about like having written reports so that, you know, Eric can copy and paste into, or just the link to the documents themselves, you know, saving some time. And then also for residents to be able to go back and, you know, view verbatim versus having to rely on note-taking or watching, you know, now a 2.5-hour live stream. So I've got my proposed actions in the document if you want to review it. I hoped that you'd be able to review it over the weekend, and this wouldn't catch y'all off guard, but here we are.
For the ARPA funds, could we recommend this goes to finance?
It was in finance, and then this was coming out for discussion with broader council. But we have time for it, so we can punt that to the next meeting if we want.
Any opinions?
So you're basically putting all this over until the next meeting? Or and once we're in executive session?
The request for village reports would go into the executive session. The ARPA funds, we can punt to May. The proposed revision to rules of council, this has been on your guys' in your emails for a little bit now. So I just think
I'm
it's
just
more
trying to
formality to move
clarify.
forward.
I guess the question is, because we're, you know, and I think this is a good thing, trying to focus on process and doing things going to executive session. Might all these go to executive session first?
Are you saying executive committee or executive session?
Executive committee, thank you.
I mean,
I guess maybe the rules of council would probably be the most appropriate one not to, because council's here and the members of the executive committee wouldn't really comment on it.
yeah, I guess I'm not understanding your question based off of the three things. So like proposed revision to rules of council, we decided on those as a council.
Yeah, that's
So
what
that
I'm
would
saying.
stay here.
That I agree with.
The request for village reports, that would go in the executive session.
Right, I'm with you there.
And then the ARPA funds, we've already discussed it in finance.
Mhm.
And this was having it come out of finance for broader discussion with all of council to brainstorm ideas on earmarking funds and their eligible
So you just
uses.
don't feel like this should go to executive session now? Executive. executive committee, I apologize, sorry.
I guess I don't understand why it would need to
I
at
don't
this
know,
point.
I mean, we're trying to develop a process where basically most things that are legislative go first to executive session, then here.
Executive committee.
Okay. I'm just gonna say the executive people.
Yeah.
If, I'm just.
I mean, it can, it totally
Okay.
can, it's just, I wanna make sure that we actually do the work on it,
Oh, I'm not
and
trying
that
to,
we are brainstorming ideas, and that they are getting shared, and that we're not meeting a month from now, or 2 months, or whatever,
don't get me
and
wrong,
nothing has happened.
I'm with you, I don't think anything should be held up, period. I mean, we should move stuff along.
Mhm.
But if this were submitted to executive committee, and then the committee comes back with recommendations on it to council, that might be more efficient, much like all legislation going through
Sure.
executive.
I mean, I can speak for the only one that I think actually goes to executive committee, which is the request for the village reports. And these are all things that, if you look at the points for discussions, those are all things that we have talked about and asked for in executive committee and still haven't gotten. So at this point, maybe it does need to have a full discussion, because this feels like a summary of what we have continued to ask for.
I mean, I think it's ultimately up to council. I'm just suggesting that if we're gonna be consistent, we should be consistent with a lot of these issues, with most of these.
I don't know, I'm open to other opinions.
Are there any other opinions? We want to make a motion on this, just so that we're clear, or just like everyone in agreement, say aye.
On what?
To what?
What am I agreeing
I thought you had, I thought you guys had made a proposal. That you made a proposal, what's going to go to executive session, something should go to executive committee, which it sounded like you were saying probably doesn't need to.
Do we understand what we're talking about with the proposed revision to the rules of council? Like, is it clear what I have put into this document?
That's the email that you sent out. right?
Yes.
It's just the time frame.
It's the time frame, the templates, that we would adopt these templates and use them to write our reports and submit them based off of this time frame. I don't know that we need more discussion on it unless there are other concerns.
Actually, sorry, I thought you suggested this go to executive session, executive committee. You didn't?
I did not.
Okay, that's fine. I apologize. I thought you
That's
said that
okay.
already. Sorry.
I feel like this is a low-hanging fruit that's just, we can review it. If we're agreeable to it, we can adopt it, and then we can put it in place as a process, starting with the May meetings.
I make a motion that we approve the proposed revisions to the rules of council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
These templates
Yeah.
are concrete, or is it up for the administration to figure out what templates they like to use?
I mean, they're open for customization in terms of like what you feel the public would need to know based off of your reports.
I think that all goes in the minutes mostly.
Right, but what we are trying to do is alleviate a lot of, the note-taking so that we are giving more comprehensive reports. Just like I did with my community engagement report, there's a lot of information in there that I would not expect Eric to have to, document in the minutes. And then truly what he is, what he would be responsible for, other than uploading these reports that we are writing as the point person, is, any further discussion or motions that result out of it.
Well, in my opinion, here, being on council a long time, we keep getting more and more work to do.
I know.
More and more paperwork. We're not a paid position. I know that I heard on NPR and some other place that communities just can't find council members anymore because it's a thankless job. Everybody gets yelled at all the time. And then you want to put all this work on somebody. We should make it as easy process as we can. And to me, this isn't easy.
this case, especially what you have written down, you'll just type up. and-
I ain't typing it up, I'm telling you.
Well,
Because it all
you're on
changed by the
here.
time I got here.
You wrote this down.
I did.
And then it makes it easier on him now, and you just link it, so it is making the process better. Everything's just documented out and collected before we get here, so we can read it, and instead of us reading 20 minutes, we already seen it before we got here. So I would favor it only if I thought it was getting out here.
And if I have the weekend to review everybody's committee updates, I can come prepared with pointed questions rather than having to react to it in real time. And also, the public has the ability to read our reports and sign up or, come to council the day of to ask comments on clarifications.
You already got it written down, you just don't like that.
So I would submit all this before I come here. And then right before I come here, the principal changes it all, a lot of it.
And that's
So
gonna
then what do
happen.
I do? I have to change it? I don't wanna do extra work anymore. I wanna make things easy. This means the police department also has to put their report in that.
I mean, you already typed.
I don't have a template for his report. It's
I thought
literally
I
all
saw
of the,
one.
it's literally all of the committees, the mayor's report, the administration's report, the fiscal officer's report. The solicitor already provides a legislative memo. The police department and the fire department already come prepared with their reports. This is basically us following that same template of what our partners are already doing.
Right, since you said that, are you saying that my report should be 5 days in advance?
No, I'm saying, I'm asking that of, council, the committees, the mayor,
I
the
mean,
administration.
I don't.
Not yours.
I really don't mind.
Yeah, not
Except
yours.
a lot of things do come up Thursday, Friday.
Understood.
Which, again, I could modify it if you want 5 days.
No, I'm just saying, if we are having council meeting, or we're having committee meetings, that are taking place 2 weeks prior to this, education's gonna be a little bit different. I know that things are gonna change on the fly, just like I have things, community engagement has things that change on the fly. I had just a meeting yesterday that I incorporated into the report. Those are the types of updates that we, 90% of the information that we have can be included in these written reports. And then it makes our verbal reports much more succinct and clear. Because we're really just reporting on changes.
So would you see uploading these these PDF documents in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happens with them after the council meeting? Would they become attachments to the? Sorry, I'm listening to this.
Yeah, it's no different than taking minutes. It's just you're getting it straight from the person who's doing the reporting. Right?
I would argue it is different for me taking minutes because I don't have to take the minutes. We can just copy it over. But I'm just saying.
I'm trying to help you, man.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Any other comments, any other discussion? I'll say with regard to the mayor's report, I've never submitted a mayor's report ahead of time. I'm usually finishing writing it up, not typing it up, but writing notes on it and everything, and even identifying and reviewing my emails to see what else should be put into it, right up until the time that we're having the meeting.
I have the same response to
Submitting, yeah, so as far as submitting it 5 days in advance or whatever, it's not something I'm willing to do with that. The format ideas that you were suggesting, I found helpful.
Yeah,
So-
perhaps you and Ms. Cheney can work on a time frame for your particular reports that are amenable to administration so that we have them to be able to review in advance so that we're able to ask questions and all of this is coming from so that we can be better prepared for these meetings.
Right.
Because if you're for example, if you're reporting on Women's History Month, we know that exists, that information can be provided in advance. Any proclamations that you might have can be provided in advance. If you have a meeting that's going to take, place, you can leave space that, this meeting is scheduled to take place on whatever, and provide that update verbally. There are workarounds for this other than just saying, I'm not going to do it.
My, you go ahead. I think that's a
Sure.
short thing.
I make a practice of getting my report and legislation to the administration by noon on Friday.
Mhm.
That's easy, a good time frame for me, because, Ron and I are talking during the week about various things we need to do. And I feel like, and I don't really know what happens. I'm presuming you then disperse it to council? Well,
No, it's
It
just
gets
posted
in the
online.
packet.
you get to put, okay, so it's online that day?
Correct.
So you would have the weekend to review it. And that, I don't know if that would work for you, Mayor, or you, Ms. Cheney, but that seems to be something that's doable for me.
Yeah, if noon on
That far in
Friday,
advance.
yeah, noon on Friday for the police, for the legislative memo, for the police department, for, like, if we wanted to change it all, like, that's why we're having this discussion, is it's all up for discussion. But what I'm having a hard time stomaching is I'm not going to do it, because this is what we're asking for us to be better prepared so that we're not sitting here at 8:45 at night with still a handful of items to go. I mean, I put a lot of work into putting all of this information together, and it was still left off of the agenda, regardless of the time, because we don't have a process in place for when these items are due. And I am
I'm not
frustrated.
opposed to, I was giving feedback, I was asking for feedback from folks, I was giving the feedback that I
Fair.
have about the mayor's report.
Yes.
That's what I was.
You bring up a good point. I would presume that if council has agenda items, we'd have a time frame on that as well.
And that's the thing, is we don't, like, there are meetings that are taking place to discuss the agenda that is part of an exclusive group, and there is nothing that goes out to the rest of council on, make sure you have stuff to me by such and such date.
Well, that's my point.
That's
That's my point.
that's why it's here.
That should apply to council members who want something on the agenda as well. It should be to the administration by whatever date you choose. But I think Friday at noon just seems to make sense to me for whatever reason. And then it can go on the agenda.
Yeah, as long as that's enough time, that's fine.
I remember seeing yours last week. I don't know when it was put out, but, it was out last week, right? Didn't you send me an email with these things out?
I know I
Yeah,
sent
I
it.
sent it on
Your agenda
Friday.
items, that's what it is.
Yeah, I sent it on
They were out
Friday,
Yeah.
I also used the template for my executive committee report, and I emailed that out probably Monday or Tuesday. It did make it into the packet, but it was also easy. Like Sharon, I understand you don't want to do more work, but I literally take the time to write down exactly what I'm going to say or what I want to talk about, and I just did that. I do it in a document anyway. I just used the template. It didn't take any extra. And the only difference was, instead of just having it on my computer, I emailed it.
Maybe, I'm gonna say something here. Been on council for 20 years. Maybe I am resenting the fact that you guys have only been here for 3 meetings and you want to change everything right away. Instead of sitting back and learning to see what works the best, you want to change everything. So
Because the way that things are, it's not working.
it has for us.
But not for us.
But not for residents. We get so much feedback about what council is doing, and the fact that they submit information and they either get harassed or they never get a call back. That is the feedback that we are getting. All I'm trying to do is to make things more accessible for the residents that we serve. The fact that we keep asking for these reports so that we can make informed decisions about the future of this community. We are here authorizing quite a bit of money for things, and we do not have the framework to make those decisions, Sharon. And no, I'm not gonna sit back and watch how it's done. That's what I did, and that's why I ran. I am here because I was elected by the public to serve in this seat, and I am doing the things that they are asking us to do. And I resent the fact that you were telling me to be quiet.
I just think we should listen to all.
I do.
All council members had to come in and listen. We never got training. You guys have gotten more training than any of us.
We've gotten 0 training, Sharon. We're doing this all on our own.
I think you did the
I am
local
working-
government and rules.
I am working almost a full-time week for this position. For what you say, we don't get paid very much. And my report is reflective of the work that I am doing for this community. So if you want me to sit back and do less, that's fine, but who's gonna do this work that the residents want? Tell me.
I don't know, maybe the residents need to step up too.
They are, and that's what we're doing.
What do you think?
I mean, they
get
could come
ran
on here,
for?
they
Why
could
do you
run for
think we're
council.
here?
Okay.
We have a motion on the table, correct?
I was wondering. I'm not.
We have a motion on the table. When Mr. Fisher gets back, if there,
Motion, and there was a second.
Mhm. So now we need to take a vote.
We're in discussion, we had discussion.
Mhm.
Spirit ask discussion, when she gets back, if there's any other,
There's one, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
sorry. I will ask when Mr. Fisher gets back if there's any more discussion, and if not, go ahead and vote on it. I'll say for the record that I am in support of having the reports of the administration out to the community in much more than what we've been doing before. We've been releasing them on Fridays, with the rule being that's 24 hours before, or excuse me, 48 hours before a council meeting. I felt that should actually be stated as 48 working day hours, so that looks more like a Wednesday, so that people in the community actually have the work week to be looking at this stuff rather than just the weekend before a council meeting. We were making those suggestions at the end, I believe, of the previous council and the beginning of this council. So I'm in agreement with that. My reservations are around my report and around Sharon's report. The reservation I have around Sharon's report is that I haven't heard anybody from the community complaining about her report not being published ahead of time. We have a hard time in history of having someone do an education report. It's been difficult to get anyone to do that report, all right? So if she's uncomfortable with the report, I'm inclined to support her with that, with her preference on that. I get it. I believe in, I ran on transparency as well and getting information out to the community. So as I said, I'm agreeable with the piece about the administration, working with the administration to make sure that's met. Around the mayor's report, I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. I'm not saying that. Because again, I think it would be helpful to have information out there ahead of time. It hasn't been done before. I've never done that before, never been asked to do it before. So my reservation is I'm being asked to have a complete discussion on it and a vote in today's meeting. And you're right, it wasn't on the agenda. When we discussed the agenda, I discussed it with, it's the three of us, Vice Mayor and Ron and I discussed the agenda where the administration reports what's been put on the agenda, and it didn't catch either the Vice Mayor or my attention.
Was our call on Thursday?
Yes.
Generally is on Thursday since it was on Friday, which would be a reason to have a deadline that is before that discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be nice to know when those meetings are taking place because that's not been communicated out to the remaining council.
Yeah,
And so we don't know what your deadline is to have this agenda set.
well, it's the effort, as we've said publicly, to have it out at least 2 days. I believe we were saying in early January to have it, to have the discussion about the agenda. This is an administrative discussion about what is on the agenda. I don't like being blindsided by stuff. A lot of times, things that come before council, I have no idea about it. Sometimes that's administration stuff. Sometimes that's other stuff that didn't get put on the agenda until after I had a conversation with the administration about what's on the agenda. So we discussed having those conversations like a week ahead of when the council meeting is, and we've been hit and miss with that. I've asked the Vice Mayor to attend them just as a matter of supporting me with the conversations with the administration.
Then I guess my question would be if, as the presider of the meeting, just like all of us in our chair positions, we reach out a certain number of days ahead of our meetings to say, do you have anything for this agenda? Is there anything you'd like to put on there? Or here is the agenda that I'm emailing to you personally. As council, we're not getting any of that. So if we are posting the agenda, on the Friday before our meeting, aside from any other guidance, me submitting an email at 3:03 PM on a Friday would have a reasonable expectation that those items would then make it to the agenda.
Yes, I agree with you.
So
I agree with you.
I feel like we're just making up things to absolve ourselves of accountability, and it's again, it's frustrating because we're just trying to do the jobs that we were elected to do.
I gotcha.
Can I say something that kind of ties into the conversation? But of course, it's, I do like the policy of everything going to executive committee before it comes to council. I prepare my legislation, again, usually start on Wednesday to make sure it's here Friday by noon. Same thing with the memo. If I looking at next month, the executive committee meets on Monday, May 6th. And this is something more or less needs to go on the record, which would mean I would need to get whatever legislation we want on for May 20th by May 6th, at least, probably a week ahead of time.
If it's gonna hit committee ahead of time.
Because it's gonna have to hit committee ahead of time. Yeah, okay, so we just gotta get in the mode of doing that. And I can tell you that there's gonna be legislation that's gonna come after that executive committee date that's we're gonna need. It happens, I don't know. I mean, we have to adjust the appropriations and that doesn't come up, early enough to do that. So what I'm saying is that periodically, we're gonna endeavor to get it done by the 6th, or by your executive committee meeting before council, but on occasion, it just won't happen that way.
Yeah,
You
there's gonna
understand what I'm
be,
saying?
I fully understand, there's going to be exceptions to everything, but
Okay.
by and large,
No, I like it. I like
Yeah.
having it ready
we
for
have to have
executive
something.
and then moving forward from there. I like that idea. I do.
So are we saying that things need to be submitted by noon on Thursday or Wednesday?
I don't think we have that fleshed out yet. At this point, do we just want to table this discussion for next meeting and whoever has the templates and feels like using them in an effort of transparency can do so?
And our instruction is to post it in the packet.
Correct.
And this is a rule of council.
This is a rule.
Rules of council are designed to facilitate the business of the village. So I think it comes under that number.
Mr. River, thank you for all your work on that. It's acknowledged. And I think we are all in agreement that there's more that can be done to make these processes better for the residents of our village. And I appreciate you taking the lead on difficult conversations and tasks to have that happen.
This is a change for us because nobody in the past ever came to our meetings. Nobody cared. This is all new. We finally have people involved. So we got a little lackluster.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think this is a good one.
Any other discussions?
For table policies.
Are we still having this executive session?
Yeah, so,
If it's going on, I will have to
right.
leave.
So Mr. Hurth has informed me of his inability to stay for,
Actually, go ahead. I don't want this hanging over my head.
excuse me,
Go ahead. I do not want this hanging over my head.
I wasn't gonna, what I was gonna try to say is that we've been here for a very long time this evening. I think it's important to have the executive session. Is it, would the executive session be able to occur if we were to excuse Mr. Hurth or not? I don't know all the issues that want to be discussed.
I mean,
I think Mr. Hurd has to have a meeting with me in June, so
Okay.
that's not, that's up to him.
I thought there was other items that were being moved to the executive
Wait,
session.
There were two, there was the police department.
Please.
What if we move on with just the police department one, because I do want everyone to have enough energy and also,
When I became aware of the health stuff, I asked for what additional, because they've been brought up about perhaps having a special session and the date that works for the administration, that would be next Monday at what time? Same time.
So if I can throw this out there, and I talked to Charlotte about this last week, the meetings are across multiple days at different times of the month. I'm wondering if, as we consider the next calendar, we can try and focus on a specific day of the week to have meetings. If we know that everything's gonna happen on a Monday, and then I know how that affects everybody's schedule, but at least at that point in time, you know not to schedule things on Mondays. And then people can be flexible and hold meetings on Mondays. That said, I had thrown out next Monday, so time to be determined.
Yeah, we did talk about the calendar moving forward, but I think for this year, it's already set. But so we're just specifically talking about a special session for Monday, the 22nd, at what time?
It's up to you.
You're not around? Okay.
I'm not either. And it can be held, but.
To be clear, we're having the executive session for, that was requested by the police department. We are doing that this evening, or are we talking about moving that one as well?
Is your
Executive session.
chief,
Executive session, what did I say?
is it time sensitive or could it?
Special.
It's not time sensitive, but it was basically, further information on this municipal building access.
Got it, okay,
I want to discuss some things that were said.
okay. All right,
We
so for,
also previously have asked for an update on the complaint, correct? But that was not mentioned tonight, but that's also lingering out there.
So what
dates
Say
are-
it, say again.
The complaint
An
Okay.
update
that
on
was
the
submitted.
so what dates,
Right.
what dates
So
for a special session are available then?
I honestly am not available on a weekday until mid-May. Beyond what
So it
we already
sounds
have
like we have
scheduled.
it tonight.
Ms. Kramer, the update
I mean, I
on
am during the
complaint.
day, but not in the evenings.
The update on the complaint, I believed I'd sent out to the full council, which was the report from the administration.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I meant the complaint that Ms. Hamilton Brewer submitted a couple months
Okay.
ago, not
All
the municipal building complaint.
Uh,
So-
Ms. Hamilton Brewers.
We don't know.
I know, the one we had for a while. Yeah.
Yes,
You want an update on that now?
I'd love an update.
I've requested information from the complainant, and I'm waiting for a response. You didn't get it?
No.
And I thought though, last council meeting, where we talked about this, we talked about, it was because you are listed, the mayor is listed, the administrator is listed, that Ms. Snyder was deciding how to move forward.
And I was told that I was no longer doing that, like
So
months
who is
ago.
doing that?
It's all of us.
The first
The full
step,
council?
the first step before we're gonna determine where it goes is for some of the facts to be fleshed out. I apologize if you didn't get my letter, but I sent it out a long time ago. I don't know what could happen. Could you call me at my office and just let me know confirm your address so I can get it to you?
It'll be in the
Or I can
minutes
even
for tonight.
email it to you. That'd
Please
be
email.
quicker. Yeah.
You have my email.
Okay, yeah, I do have your email. I'll do that. I'm really surprised because I sent it a while ago but I'll get it out to you by email, okay?
So you have submitted a letter to request more information, and then what's next?
We don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what
But what do you do with the information that's received?
we're gonna determine, the administration's gonna determine where the complaint goes.
That I think is my problem, because you, the mayor, and the administrator are listed, so I don't feel like it's appropriate for the three of you to be involved.
Well, who would you like to determine that?
That's what we decided in the previous council meeting, it would be Ashley as the vice mayor. That's, I think, it has to be a neutral party.
Well, I
now.
think, again, before we do anything, I think I would really like to see and flesh out what the facts are, what the various issues are to determine where we're gonna go with it.
I hear you, I think I'm also concerned about a conflict, is what I'm trying to.
I understand what you're saying, but, if you feel the results, first of all, I'm just gonna say this. If this complaint weren't by this individual, who's the wife of a council person, this body would never know about it. We deal with complaints every day against the police department, against the administration, against everybody. The administration deals with the complaint as appropriate and fairly, I might add. And we will do the same thing with this one. And if I see a conflict, as a lawyer, I have a duty to avoid a conflict of interest. So if I see a conflict, then I would recuse myself from looking at it any further. Same thing with the mayor, I would advise them to recuse themselves.
I'm
And then-
sorry, the
yes.
ORC very specifically states that it is a conflict of interest for an elected official to be doing anything involving an investigation into themselves. And last meeting, the mayor referred to referring something or recommending something about this investigation. That is a violation of the ORC again. Okay, and
All we're
Sorry,
asking
what
for-
comments are, hold on, what comments are you referring to at the last meeting that I said?
is the last meeting or the meeting before where we were talking again about what was happening with this complaint because there has been nothing. I have received one response that was directed to me and that was a thank you. And then I have received one mention of it in a council meeting, the one where Mr. Butler could not be here and he was on the phone and there was a snarky response or a snarky comment about, and she wants the village to not pay for it. I don't see how that can happen. And that was where it was decided that Ms. Snyder would be the one taking ownership of this. And I've been waiting for a response because I was simply going to say, had you reached out to me, I could discuss with you that I wanted to be in there following like ORC and Roth Manor law that the people who have misappropriated funds, and in this case, I would take that to be like taking actions that then lead to an investigation is a bad use of our funds, that they would be responsible for paying for them, just like if somebody used funds that they weren't supposed to, and then they have to personally pay those funds back to the village. Having said that, I actually do believe in due process, and so I didn't want to put that in there and say that they were responsible for it. If we go through a real investigation and it comes back that we don't think that they are liable for anything, so I was saying, hey, this is an investigation. I want to make sure that the taxpayers are not on the hook for paying for something that is not their fault and that has been negatively impacting us. But I need to leave it up to the people who do this to figure out what that is. At either the last meeting or the meeting before, I do not remember, we were talking about, as you have requested before, I am happy to go back into the minutes and find the timestamps so that you don't have to rewatch them.
No, come on, I'm
You
just
were-
asking for the clarification on it, is all, because I'm not recalling what it is that you're referring to, I just
No, I
wanted more
understand,
details.
just like in this meeting, you told her you were not going to do something and then a few moments later said that you had not said that. I am saying that in a previous meeting, when we asked when we were going to be handling all of this, you turned to the lawyer and said that you had recommended, and forgive me, I don't remember the exact language, I will go back and find it, but that you were recommending that the executive session that it was being handled in would be delayed. And then later on, it came up that like that was being delayed because we didn't have everybody here. And I am not trying to say, I think there was the meeting where Ms. Primer was absent. And I'm not trying to say that it should have gone forward without somebody. But what I am saying is that you should have had no business recommending to the lawyer when an executive session dealing with an investigation into you happened that is literally written in the ORC.
So.
First of all we're doing is asking for facts to be fleshed out. So there can be an investigation where whoever it ends up, because look, there are potentially criminal allegations in there, which would be better suited by the sheriff's office to investigate. There are potentially ethical violations, which would probably go to the AG's office to investigate. There are lots of different allegations, but I am not clear from reading it what the precise allegations, facts, etc. are. That's all I'm asking for. That's in the letter. I apologize it didn't get to you, and I have no idea why, other than I got the address wrong. I'll send it to you by email, okay? By the way, it was not a snarky remark that the taxpayers weren't going to pay for it. Although maybe I understand what you're saying now. They're not going to pay for it. If there's an investigation, it's going to have to be paid for by this village. Because let's just say we hire outside counsel to look into it, which is what a lot of villages do. They don't work for free. So they're going to get money up front, and they're going to be paid hourly for their investigation. Now, what you're saying is, and this I understand, What you're saying is if violations are discovered, and if some malfeasance, nonfeasance, whatever is discovered, then yeah, maybe perhaps whoever is the offender would have to go back and pay for some of the investigation. That I'll buy. Is that what you were saying?
That's what I was saying.
Well, that's not the way it read.
I understand, I'm just saying
Okay.
that question could have come to me for clarification.
Okay, it could have, but it didn't. But now, and I guess that's precisely what we're saying, or I'm saying, is I need clarification, I need facts, I need offenses, I need to know who did what when. And when you give me all of that, then we're gonna determine where it goes. Because like I said, it could go to half a different bodies the way it is right now.
I'm wanting to get clear on what your accusation was about what I said at the previous council meeting with regard to the ORC,
I think
No,
we-
that is not relevant to this discussion. No. No.
listen.
We're
She
not
just
going to
said-
sit here and use council time to
Excuse
absolve
me,
you.
No, I'm not asking for, and I'm trying to get clarification. My understanding was that I'm not supposed to, according to the ORC, when our legal counsel says that we should have an executive session to update folks on stuff, and not all of our council members are here, that I'm not allowed to say, I don't think that we should do it without the person
You
here.
are not allowed to recommend or refer or do anything involving an investigation into yourself.
All right,
That is the language of the ORC.
okay. I'm not an attorney, and I was going with what our attorney said. So if
I'm not an attorney either, I just have read the law.
And so far, he hasn't done anything. Other than, well, the administration has said, we need to get more facts to know where this is going.
I think this needs to happen later because it's really interesting that you need to have an entire extra conversation with me to get all the facts that I laid out in 50 pages, but you know for sure that he has not done this thing. I have taken up enough of council's time. Golly, Ms. Cheney, I wonder why we as village residents don't feel like we are welcome.
Any other comments from council?
We need to find a date for this special session. I don't think there's anything else that can be decided on this evening.
So changing the agenda to not have the executive session this evening, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And so,
For the minutes, the last thing that was
Okay.
left on was a proposition. There was a motion to approve revision of the council minutes to council rules by Ms. Crimer, second by Ms. Brewer. And since then, there has not been, it was seconded. So unless the motion was retracted, my understanding of the process is that has to either be voted on or retracted. And then, since then, there has been recommendations, but there hasn't been any specific motions or there was a recommendation to table the proposed rules. That is my record. I apologize if I missed something.
I will retract my motion.
Okay.
any other suggested dates, or are we going with the date of next Monday?
Someone's not available.
Oh, that's
David
right.
and Ashley
That's
are both
right.
not available.
David, you would not be available until after May 1st, right?
And Ashley said midday.
I mean, there are possibly days, I can't, it's too random right now for me to confidently throw out a date and time.
And no one has 15 minutes now, right?
I'm afraid that more than 15 minutes is needed for anything to make a difference. And I also want people to have enough energy and calmness.
Yeah, I don't think anything productive will get done this evening. In an executive session. Could we? Is there a different date in May? What's your first date?
I mean, are we only talking like Monday evenings? Are there days of the week that are off?
Could we do Wednesday, May 1st?
That evening, yes.
Is everybody available one day in the morning?
Could be available in the morning.
No.
I'm not available until 1 Monday through Thursday. Monday, sorry, that was May 1st, correct?
Mhm.
That works.
Say at 6 PM or 7 PM?
It's just 6 p.m.
What was the suggestion? 6 a.m., 6 PM?
6.
This is for a special meeting for an executive session, is that right? Regarding personnel?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you want me to attend?
Sure.
Okay.
So 6 PM, Wednesday, May 1st.
Motion has been made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Without objection, I think it's unanimous for our next special meeting for executive session Wednesday, May 1st at 6 PM. Thank you.
Motion to
Is there a
adjourn.
motion to?
You were
Excuse me.
announcing that the meeting
Doesn't
starts.
matter.
Good. All right. So there's been a motion to adjourn. A second.
Who was the motion by, sorry?
Charlotte.
A second.
Sorry, I signed up at the last minute to say something.
Sure.
Sorry. Elizabeth Lake. One, I just wanna say it is way too hot in here for y'all to be in here this long. This is completely unacceptable. The reason I come to these meetings is because I actually can't really hear the audio. But then I come here and I know I'm very hot, and some of y'all are in suits. That's too much. This has to get fixed by your next meeting. This is unacceptable. If that could get fixed, the mic, that would be awesome. Lastly, I just wanna say I know I appreciate the work that's trying to be done on the flag situation. But I do, as much as I want that to go through and get approved, I really do want processes. That's why I'm here, Sharon. Because I moved to this a year ago. For the last 10 years, me and my wife have actually been wanting to move to Gulf Manor because we have friends and community in this neighborhood. We moved from Los Angeles to Long Beach, or to Gulf Manor. So we want to be here. We have a group of people who want to be here, who want to be involved. So I know that you've been here for 20 years. I get that. I understand there's a lot of
Actually,
things.
43.
23 years?
43. I've been on
43?
council 20.
Okay, yes, you've been on council for 20-something years, and I get that. I understand that that's a lot of new blood to deal with, and that can be really hard. But it is our generation that is tired, unfortunately, of people sitting on council and saying, I've done it like this for 23 years.
That's okay. I've already made my decision what I'm gonna do, so you don't have to preach at me anymore.
So I'm just saying though, because you stood here and said that the residents should get involved, and we are involved. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, fine, right.
So I just wanna make sure that the processes are getting followed. As much as I want things to obviously happen, it's really unfortunate that I come and I listen to things multiple times, not go to the appropriate committees. That's why I'm involved. So, I appreciate you guys. It is a thankless job, 110%. But I think you all knew that going into this. And I work in nonprofits. That's a thankless job too. I still have to do a good job every day. So thank you guys very much. I know you're tired. I know you're freaking hot. Please adjourn.
Before we vote on that, our next council meetings are scheduled Monday, May 6th, Executive Committee at 6 PM, Finance Committee at 7 PM. Tuesday, May 7th, Human Rights Commission. Thursday, May 9th, Community Engagement, 6 PM. And Monday, May 20th, Full Council at 6 PM. Any other comments? We have a first and a second.
Who was the
If not-
second, sorry? Second was by you?
I think I was the second. To adjourn.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for your service.